Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast, brought to you by our show partner, Join Cycling, for the big one. Buckle in, get yourself a coffee, sit down, just strap in. Get whatever, seatbelt, belt, I don't care what you have to strap yourself in. Benji's locked and loaded if you're watching on YouTube. This is the Tour de France 2024 preview. 2 months ago, we thought we might even have to skip this because it was a foregone conclusion. Tides have changed, things are back, and we can't wait to get into everything. The route, a quick overview, the rules, the favorites, the outsiders, the best sprinters, the break hunting teams, recapping what happened last year and going through every single stage piece by piece in great detail, so you have everything you need to know, including our picks for each stage and the jerseys at the end. How are you feeling, Benji? I've never seen you so serious in 5 seasons.
My man, this is a serious podcast. We got to be serious. But this Tour de France, I am so looking forward to it. I'm extremely hyped. And the main reason is, on paper, every single big GC rider is here. Jonas Vingegaard won 2 Tour de France's. Pogacar won 2 Tour de France's. They're fighting each other with the outsiders being Primoz Roglic, with Remco Evenepoel, with some other riders like Carlos Rodriguez, but also riders within the same team. UAE has 17 bloody leaders in this race. And Visma's here with Matteo Jorgensen as well, who's been great all year. So I want to see all these riders clash. And the parcours, gonna spoil a little, looks pretty good.
I think it's a really good parcours. We've got traditional sprinter stages, we've got hard TTs, we've got a flatter TT, and we're starting in Italy, begins in Florence, goes across to we still don't know, we think it's the Adriatic coast, but Benji and I are still not sure, at Rimini, then works its way west
Pacific
to Bologna.
Ocean.
Yeah, exactly. It connects with, I think if you just go across on a sailboat or a tug buddy boat, you can get to Perth directly from Rimini, west of Australia. But then it goes across west to Bologna, which is the finish of Giro dell'Emilia, GC action straight out of the gate on stages 1 and particularly 2. Then a big long transition stage to Turin for stage 3. We leave Italy on stage 4 across the Galibier. Early on stage 4, we have big climbs. And then it's a few more sprint stages as we head north to Dijon. And as a TT around the furthest north we go is Troyes, which is I think an hour and a half out of Paris southeast, where there's a gravel stage to end week 1. So we got sprints, punchy stages, the Galibier, a TT, a gravel stage, all in week 1. Then we come down from Orléans, down for some transition, massive central stages, hot, horrible, heavy roads in the heat in the middle of France with some punchy climbs. And then down towards the Pyrenees with Pau to Plat d'Ardèche and then Loudunville to Plateau de Bay, which is just over that mountain ridge where I'm looking here beneath Foix near Andorra stage. And then there's rest day 2. And then we have a couple more transition stages to Barcelonnette and then 3 very, very difficult stages. The finish of this Tour de France is much different to previous years with, I don't know what area of the Alps this is. It's like the lower Alps near Nice. But we have Isola, Bonnet, Cuyol, races familiar to you from Paris-Nice, and then a TT to finish rather than the Champs-Élysées finish due to the Olympics in Paris this year. I think, Benji, a really quite a well-balanced route, actually.
I think so as well, and it's really a journey, you know, because we start off with a bit of Alps in the first week, and we finish off with a bit of Alps, but there's so much in between, like the Massif Central and also the Pyrenees, and I'm also quite intrigued by the selections of climbs they have, because there's mythical ones in there, there's a Tourmalet in there, there's a Galibier in there, but also climbs that might not have the most renowned names, like Isola 2000. As a cycling fan, I know that climb, but the mainstream only Tour de France watchers might not necessarily hear that and say, oh, that sounds like an interesting climb. It's an interesting climb. So that's big, but also the ceiling of this race is so high. Cime de la Bonnette, what is that? 2,450 meters, or is it higher?
800.
Really?
2,800.
Crazy.
I don't know what the Iseran is. Luke will know. But it was, that's maybe 2,700. I mean, the Galibier already goes to 2,630. So we got some really high altitude here, and it kind of, even with Isola, Benji, you know, Isola doesn't look the hardest climber either, but the first 6Ks of that is very, very difficult indeed. So I can't wait to see, how these last 3 stages play out. I mean, and who knows, we've seen in the final TTs in the Giro, in the Tour de France in 2020, that the final TTs in week 3 after hard stages, who knows what can happen.
Yeah.
But to recap last year, it was basically the battle between Vingegaard and Pogacar. They went back and forth, neck and neck. Vingegaard taking time on Marie Blanc, Pogacar fighting back the next day, and then Vingegaard ended the race in the TT and then on lows the next day in week 3. Pogacar had crashed before in Liège-Bastogne-Liège where he fractured his wrist. Vingegaard said in the Netflix series didn't affect him. Benji, how do you think it's much of the same? Do you still see it that way? Because you introduced this episode by saying Vingegaard, Pogacar, and outsiders.
Yes, because I see those two riders as significantly better than the others. Now, we've had loads of discussions the last 1 month and a half, 2 months about this rider rode the Giro. In Pogacar's case, Vingegaard had a pretty major injury, collapsed lung, multiple fractured ribs, broken collarbone, etc., etc. So that probably hindered his preparation towards this race. We'll talk about the individual riders once we go through every favorite. But then when it comes to Remco and Roglic, Roglic moved away from Jumbo-Visma after last year towards BORA-hansgrohe. Red Bull BORA-hansgrohe, do we know whether that's going to start off with that name or it's how many days until the Tour de France? Why do I not know the name of this team?
For the sake of everyone listening, we're recording this Monday, 24 June, 5 p.m., 1700 CET. I think Benji's in Belgium. And
no,
he's not. Okay, fair enough. 1600
Mate,
GMT.
I've lived here for 9 months and you still don't recognize my background.
You're a man of mystery. You're an international track. You hear you there. A fair few of these teams are not announced fully. When we go through the teams, we'll let you know that. And indeed, DSM just announced after we started recording. But as Benji said, jerseys, we don't know Red Bull's jersey. We don't know Alpecin's jersey. We know Visma's.
Eight specific Tour de France jerseys, apparently, according to the Tour de France website, including Alpecin, including Soudal Quick-Step.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious what it will look like.
Quick-Step used to do it during the Ronde van Vlaanderen, but they were too shit in the classics that they saved it for the Tour now. They used to do, I can't remember what it was. I actually looked pretty good in fun. Anyway, that's just so you know. So yeah, you'll be as confused as we will when you look at stage 1. You'll feel like you're watching Tour Down Under with all the new jerseys, but that's just unfortunately the way it is. But before we oh yeah,
quickly about that, there's teams that need to change their kit. Yes. Like Visma, for example, because they're literally riding a yellow jersey the entire year. So it's good that they have to change that, in my opinion, because otherwise they look like the yellow jersey the entire race. But there's also other teams where I think, okay, maybe it's against their brand identity to shop for a completely different jersey throughout the race and not necessarily have to change in the first place. But anyway, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And it's in the Giro, we see that every year the EF also have to change. But, that's just the way it is. Maybe we'll see it change in the future. But before we get into the favorites, the odds and all the stages, a word on our show partner, Join Cycling. Many cyclists struggle to improve their fitness due to lack of proper guidance, consistency, and motivation. That's been a problem for me in particular. If I go and look at my training history, it's not that special in terms of what's going wrong. It's consistency. It's just trying to do enough to keep improving. And Join Cycling has provided me and many of you already this year with science-based, adaptive, structured training plans that evolve with the user's progress, ensuring continuous and, for me, most important, sustainable fitness improvement. You can probably do it. My Strava's public. Download my files and map my CTL. You can see my training load is progressively improving, and now I hit 50 fitness or CTL, chronic training load, or whatever you want to call it. I've gotten better, much better, and I'm in the best shape for like 5 or 7 years. I can't even remember. I'm aging myself since I was a student, a uni student before I started working a real job, which I'm really, really happy about. And so with Join, every cyclist can improve your fitness in an easy, accessible, and enjoyable way. And I'm not talking, this is not just for people doing 15 hours a week. I'm not doing 15 hours a week. I'm doing 5 to 7 hours a week. On a good week, I'll do 9. And it's not like intervals, crazy workouts as well. That's the beauty of it. And listen, mileage varies between individuals. Of course, you got stress, sleep, nutrition, of course. But average improvement in your functional threshold power, basically how much you can hold that threshold or for an hour or however you want to define FTP. The average improvement for join users that do a plan after 3 months on 3 to 5 hours a week is 10 watts on 3 to 5 hours a week. Now, if you're doing over 5 hours a week, 16 watts to your FTP. After 6 months, over 20 watts, just on over 5 hours a week, 5 to 7 hours a week. Huge improvements with structured, adaptive training plans. And so that's why I wanted to really reiterate that it's the best way to improve your fitness and maybe to have fun on the bike, particularly this summer, is to improve in a way that I think is super sustainable and not going to grind you into the dust. And indeed, we got a message from Jim Vandenberg, who you heard on the podcast last week, about that consistency, delivering it to me and Benji ourselves, something we need to hear during the Tour de France.
So the summertime can be hard. Sun, sea, beach, maybe some occasional Tour de France. So the challenge for you guys is actually to ride your bike at least 3 times a week. It doesn't really matter whether you ride your bike like 3 hours or whatever training load you hit. You don't even have to maintain your current joint level. It's just all about consistency and keeping in those rides for at least 3 times a week, even though it's a 30-minute or 45-minute ride. So that's your guys' challenge for this, upcoming month of July. Good luck. I'm sure you can take care of it, and see you soon.
So that's the challenge. Benji and I, 3 rides a week. I think we'll be able to do it. Benji's coming here on Friday even, so we can force each other, peer pressure each other to do it. Even we'll get Luke. I think Luke has to do 3 rides a week as well. I've just decided that, adding to what Jim said. And if you want to try join cycling, there's no better time. During the month of July, during the Tour de France, the current offering, 30 days, free trial, because we believe that, why not try it? No strings attached. You don't even need to put your credit card details in, and you can see if you like it. Don't just take our word for us. So 30 days free trial using our link down below, and that helps the LRCP show a lot as well. And thanks to Join Cycling for supporting us throughout the year, as well as in particular during this Tour de France. Okay, time to get into the favorites, Benji. There is one favorite according to the markets. It is Tadej Pogačar, who is just over the odds-on favorite, ahead of second favorite Jonas Vingegaard. Let's look at Pogačar. Wins the Giro d'Italia. No pressure. Did what he wanted. I think what he win 8 stages, 10 stages. I think he deliberately tried to win.
Felt like 15.
He win by less time deliberately to annoy you because you picked 10 minutes or something. Could have won by 15 minutes.
Nah. I picked 8:51 and he actually got more.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
See, underrated.
Yeah.
Monte Grappa, maybe. The team they're bringing, Benji, I want to get your reaction. Pogačar, Ayuso, Almeida, Yates, Sivakov, Soler, Wellens, Pollitt. Ayuso, third in the Vuelta. Almeida, Yates, dominant in Swiss. And then Sivakov, Soler, Wellens, Pollitt, clearly to me, helpers. How do you see that team?
Well, first of all, let's get serious again. Let's put the sunglasses on because this is a very serious conversation. UAE Team Emirates. There's a lot of riders in there that could be leaders on other teams for this race. And they might not necessarily be the riders that can win this Tour de France. Like, if I think about Joao Almeida, I see a rider that can top 5 this race. That's how I perceive him. But on the other hand, UAE is not here to top 5. Okay, these sunglasses are terrible. I can't read my notes. Anyway, so I see Almeida as a rider that, in my opinion, will probably fold into a domestique role in this race. Because when I look at the team and I think, okay, which riders could be useful as co-leaders for Pogačar? I more lean towards Adam Yates and Almeida. I more lean towards, even though his form hasn't shown it, Ayuso than Almeida. And that's because they're
really
more attacking riders than Almeida is. And therefore, I find it harder to imagine that Almeida will be able to put pressure on the competition outside of just being consistent throughout the race.
So you're saying like on a stage 15, there's a really hard start. In fact, that's where we've seen Almeida struggle. He's not the guy that just jumps in a breakaway. He's the steady diesel, like Benji's saying. And yeah, whereas Ayuso, he in the Vuelta last year, okay, it didn't work out, but he'll go for it. And is it too early for a hot take, or can I have a hot take?
Drop in a hot take, my friend.
Adam Yates, the third best GC rider in this race.
That's not a hot take.
Is it not?
No.
He's sixth favourite.
Mate, it's ice cold, in my opinion.
How is Ayuso the same odds as Yates? Why does everyone hate Adam Yates?
I think Ayuso has that X factor where he might just show up when you don't expect it. But then again, I've been saying that for 2 years, while he hasn't necessarily done it, in my opinion. So it's hard to look at that. I personally agree that based on Tour de Suisse and Dauphiné, that I have full confidence that Adam Yates could podium this Tour de France. But on the other hand, that is also dependent on how Remco and Roglic and other riders ride, because they might put UAE in a situation where Adam Yates will need to work for Pogacar and therefore loses a bit of time here or there, which that's always possible. But I think that Adam Yates is definitely strong enough to combine that and maybe still podium this races. So when it comes to strength, I actually agree with your hot take.
To give an example of what Benji's saying, whilst Yates may be the third strongest, that doesn't mean he will podium. If you look at the Tourmalet stage last year, he's dropped. Pogacar goes clear with Vingegaard. UAE are not going to chase Pogacar for Adam Yates. And so Yates gets put on a 3-minute gap on the Tourmalet stage or on the Marie Blanc stage, because if Poggy's ahead, UAE is going to help his GC at that point.
But he's also in a position where, like in stage 1 last year, people might not respond to him as fast as they do to the other UAE riders, which means he might actually win a stage or gain some time that way. So I see some possibility there. And the thing with Almeida is just that I haven't seen that acceleration, that brutal attacking continuously. Ayuso can do stupid and crazy shit every now and then, so I see him doing that more. But I'm looking at Pogacar and Adam Yates as the leaders for this team.
So you think, okay, so because usually it's like everyone knows the big boss in July.
Yeah.
So you think Poggy and Yates are who they will use as co-leaders, and Almeida and Ayuso more as the domestiques?
But to be clear, Pogacar above Adam Yates. Yeah. Pogacar is the big boss. Adam Yates, backup co-leader. Almeida, I see more as the guy that will be more lenient to falling into a domestique role earlier than the others.
Really?
While Ayuso, I am more feeling I think Ayuso might try to stay up there in GC, and they might try and use him to do some crazy shit throughout the race. I don't know how easy he will fold into a domestique role, because we've seen some selfish riding in the past from Ayuso, but also
when
it comes to... What, sorry?
And Almeida.
Really? Where?
On Bejes. On stage 16 of the Vuelta, he refused to pull and then attacked.
That is different.
I know,
because
it's different,
that's Almeida and Ayuso. Well, this is Almeida, Ayuso, and Pogacar.
Yeah. And in Catalonia, he was good for Poggy. But then I would say that Yates is the one who's more ready to fold into that role almost too soon sometimes.
Oh.
And that he's like, I know where I got signed. I'm over 30. I still get my own results. The other guys are the young, hungry dogs. They're the young pups. So
the young pups.
I actually don't know. This is one of the things I'm most curious about this whole Tour de France. We are finally seeing Poggy, all the guns apart from Del Toro at one race. Ayuso, Almeida, Poggy, and how that is going to work. It can work brilliantly. It cannot work brilliantly. It's certainly on paper the firepower. They are the best team in the mountains in terms of depth by far.
But you just said it. One of the strongest teams in the mountains, the strongest team in depth when it comes to the mountains. But that also leaves questions elsewhere. Soler, yes, he's also mountain territory. He can do a bit of versatile territory. Maybe try and help control on the flat a little bit, but it's mainly going to be down to Pollitt and Wellens to do so. And when it comes to Pollitt, I've got the confidence that he's a major add-on for this team.
Yeah, for sure.
But to have the pressure on him like the way I'm expecting it to be in this race, that's a lot of pressure. Wellens, I don't really know what to expect when it comes to breakaway, formation control, etc. Because on paper, he's got the engine for it, but you need more than an engine for it, you know?
Yeah, he's a classics rider, so they're generally speaking, they should jumping but the heat, stage racing, he's never had to do it before. Dauphiné, not good. But then he won the Belgian national champs in TT.
Yep.
So did Pollitt. So I think it is an upgrade. Pollitt is an upgrade on Langenenberg for that role. Pollitt is an upgrade.
Yeah.
But then Trentin's out. Langen's out. They have Sivakov in there. Sivakov and Soler are the odd ones out for me because they are in the Benoit and Tratnik role, is how I see it. The all-rounders.
Yeah.
But they are not as all-round as Benoit and Tratnik.
Fair.
And they are actually Sivakov is a climber.
Yep.
Soler, he won Tour de l'Avenir. He is a climber. And so I don't... Yeah, I think it is quite unbalanced, actually, the team. So we'll see.
But yeah, you got to look at the team and also ask the question, what would you change then if you had to try and balance it a little more? Would it be keeping out Sivakov or Soler and putting in someone like Langen? Or do you see it more as we've got a leader too much?
That's the thing, because it's not like they left Stefan Kung at home, you know? Seriously, like...
They left him at FDG.
Yeah, they left it. Well, maybe he left himself there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they took the rulers to the Giro as well. But yeah, I don't know. Someone like Bjerg or McNulty or Novak or Langen. Either of those, I think, would have made more sense, to be honest.
Yeah, but I don't rate Novik's ruler qualities as high as you. How did this switch around?
No, because like they are going to have to, like, we'll get to it on. Let's look at stage 4 as an example, Benji.
Yeah,
Sestria is like 40 k's long, 3%. Big break goes. You know, Hindley style break of Marie Blanc last year. Is Pollitt and Wellens going to control that? Maybe they can. You know, but it's like that's where I think Novak would be good at, just another big body.
I think that's where Soler comes in.
And Sivakov, yeah. And Sivakov's not 60 kilos. He's not like a lightweight climber either. He can ride the flat. But, yeah, I think if there is a weakness in the team, I would say it's there. Yeah. Because certainly in terms of climbing, it's pretty good.
I agree with you. Now, looking at that team, I got to be honest, before this race starts, Pogacar having ridden a Grand Tour, having ridden that Giro d'Italia, I think that matters. But on the other hand, I personally still have him as the favorite, and that's mainly because I haven't seen Vingegaard race, so it's hard to know where he is. And I'll be honest, going into that Jumbo Visma Lease bike now, oh my god, on the Tour de France podcast, I'm naming them wrong. We'll be at the bottom of the ranking this time. Oh no. Anyway, when it comes to Jonas Vingegaard, when it comes to crashing at Basque Country, having major injuries as a consequence, fracturing ribs, collapsed lung, broken collarbone, whatever. I personally, I'm not impacted by all the Visma Lease bike conversations. Tish Benoit pretending that Jonas Vingegaard can barely ride a bike at the moment. I don't listen to that at the moment. The way I personally see it is that Vingegaard came back from a heavy injury, so I find it hard to believe that he's going to be at 100% from the start of this race. I hope for the race that they're both at 100%. And that's why, personally, Pogacar is a slight bit more of a favorite for me than Vingegaard at this race. And that's just how I see it.
I think it makes sense. I think, you know, like it's no secret. He hasn't raced since the crash in Basque Country. And so clearly he's had an affected preparation compared to the ideal preparation of last year.
But I will say there's been so much what seems like sandbagging in the last week that it's gone a bit over top for me. I can't handle every single rider in the team of Visma Lease bike doing an interview and saying, oh, I would never bet on one of my riders to on Vingegaard top treeing the podium. I don't dare to do that. It's very, I'm not sure I want to risk my house on that, stuff like that, because I'm sorry, but that's too much. 2 years ago, they had a whole shebang of Wout van Aert having a knee injury, not being able to go to the Belgian Championship, showing up at the Tour de France, and doing a glorious performance. But I don't believe fuck all anymore.
That's because your BS Belgian rules. Like, Remco said he was too sick to do the Belgian national champs on the weekend, and someone took a video of him doing a recon of the TT. You know, I think, did Wellens say he was sick as well?
I don't know. He wrote it.
Oh, did he write it? I mean, yeah.
Wellens the TT, yeah.
But you have to do the road race if you're a license holder in in Belgium. I mean, I don't know why Benji didn't do it. I didn't see him lined up. So maybe Benji's probably expecting a fine. Like, what do they do if you don't turn up and you don't give a reason? Do they like excommunicate you, or you don't get selected for Worlds or something?
I don't think I'm allowed to go to the Olympics now, which I
you
would have loved to put Olympian in my Twitter bio. But Jesus Christ, dude. no need to look down in Wallonia that much.
Yes.
You're the Belgian federationalist. What is that called? I don't even know.
The Belgians. I want to secede. Yes, from
breaking news. Patrick wants to split Belgium in 2 countries.
I think you already got a party for that, don't you?
I think we do actually.
I don't know where I was going with this. Oh yeah, Vingegaard's got one leg.
Jesus Christ.
That's what you're saying. That clearly. He would not line up for the Tour de France if he's cannot hang on to the peloton. Like, that would make no sense. But it also has to be true, Benji, that it's unclear what his shape will be.
Yep.
It is like training is training, but it is also impossible to know.
There's 2 sides to this thing. Like, communication-wise, I think Visma shouldn't have started in the first weeks after the injury with, he needs to be 100% before we send him to the Tour de France, because now people are going to use that against him.
I think play devil's advocate, and if people don't know, maybe listening to the preview for the first time, I work for Visma Lease.
Yeah. Wow, did you? I don't know that.
Yeah, about Tour de France preview people. I think they meant 100% from like a health perspective.
Yeah.
Like he is not, he doesn't have 50% lung capacity or something, and they'll send him to the tour.
Jesus Christ.
Well,
yeah, but that's not how it sounded.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, that messaging has certainly been watered down the last 2 weeks. And then Tish Benoit gave an interview saying, I don't know what he said, that he doesn't know what Vingegaard will be like.
It's all sandbagging.
I mean, I also think that's too far the other way, because it's like, you don't know. But this is
my objective opinion. My objective opinion is Pogacar is slightly the favorite, because I find it hard to believe that Visma even knows where Vingegaard is right now when it comes to the level, because I wouldn't know how you would know just before the Tour de France after limited preparation whether your rider can sustain a 3-week Grand Tour after an injury like that.
You don't even know with perfect preparation. It's like a freak event. It's like a 3-week race. But this is an important discussion because, for the present purposes for the rest of the podcast, we are going to assume that Vingegaard, Roglic, Pogacar, and Evenepoel are competitive against each other, because frankly, if we spend the next hour and a half discussing or having to caveat, it'll be annoying. Or also, esteemed listeners, you are intelligent enough to know that if Vingegaard, Roglic, and Evenepoel are bad, who is going to win the race? And you don't need a long podcast. So we are going to assume for present purposes that they are all in fighting shape.
Except in the prediction and hot take segments at the end, because there we can freestyle.
Yeah, Adam Yates for the win, baby.
Second year in a row for you.
Dude, I love Yates so much.
Mate, you signed the other one because you wanted Adam so much.
See, the UCI pushed back the transfer announcements to like October 15. I can't figure out that rule. So there, who even knows what the rules are? That transfer rules got changed, but the French version got changed, English version didn't change. Anyway, we should probably do the visual team for
Daniel Benson transfer releases are facts to me.
All media speculation. Don't trust it. Visma Lease Bike's full team, as confirmed on PCS: Vingegaard, Koos, Tish Benoit, Jorgensen, Laporte, Tratnik, Van Aert, Kelderman. The climbers are Koos, Jorgensen, Kelderman. The versatile riders are Tratnik, Benoit, Van Aert, let's say. And then Laporte's the rouleur / lead out for Van Aert. It's certainly a more rouleur-heavy classics team compared to UAE. But with no Van Hooijdonk, it's sort of missing that super rouleur as well. But obviously, he had to retire. Also, Kruijswijk crashed out of the Dauphiné. He was intended to be where Kelderman is, but then Kelderman was good in Swiss. Certainly, it's not as good as, if you watch Swiss in the mountains, as UAE's support for Poggi. I think it's pretty hard to go past these rouleurs for the versatile terrain, Benji.
It's also because we don't know where everybody stands when it comes to their level. Jorgensen looks strong, very strong, to the point that I see him as as a co-leader for the team, a backup leader, because once again, I don't believe that Visma can know where 100% Vingegaard is. So I'd like to see Jorgensen start with a bit of a backup leader role, because that can also be useful tactically. I see Sepp Kuss more as a fall into domestique role than a backup leader personally. Next to that, like we know what a Laporte and a Tratnik usually do in these races. Kelderman last year when it comes to the first week.
Yeah.
Kelderman looked pretty good at Swiss until Del Toro took him out, but then again on the Villars-sur-Roland, what is it? Not the TT, but the second last stage.
Yeah.
It's not even clear which Villars-sur-Roland stage I talk about, because it's every single stage in Tour de Suisse. He was good in that race, so he should be solid domestique there, but I agree, I probably trust I don't know. I trust Visma, Lease Bikes, Mountain Team more to work for Vingegaard 100% when it's absolutely necessary than the UAE Team Emirates Mountain Team in the first week already, for example, personally. Because those riders are less leadership role as Almeida and Ayuso when it comes to UAE. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, and also those UAE riders are kind of better outside of the tour for their own results. So it makes you, but then you think of the actual previous Tour de France, Benji, and you're like, who's in the valley after Spandel before Alpecin pulling on the flat?
Do not remember.
Tej Benoit. Okay. But then if you say, but you put him side by side with ex-UAE rider, you say, they are a much better climber. Marie Blanc, who is dropping Adam Yates? Sepp Kuss. Who is dropping Adam Yates on Tourmalet?
Sepp Kuss looked shit at the Dauphiné, so I've got limited confidence myself. Even though it's Sepp Kuss, so he could show up and be the domestique he has every single year at the most important races.
Dauphiné, normally he cooks even if he's shit in the early stages, he's still normally good in the mountain stages. In the Dauphiné, he was not good. He was sick. So, but Kelderman, Tourmalet dropped Yates. So like, I think I agree with you that on paper they're not as watts per kilo high, but they've done it before, and having done it before, I think is also important. But clearly, UAE should have more numbers. In a group of 7 or 8 in the mountains, they clearly should. What they'll do with it, I don't know. But that's
It physically hurts not seeing Mike at the Tour de France for me. I don't know why,
I think
but
Mike is physically hurt.
I miss Rafa Majka.
He would have been in if Ayuso crashed out properly, right? I would say.
Yeah. Would you prefer Rafa Majka at this tour, having crashed out of having not crashed? No. Would you prefer having Rafa Majka at the Tour de France instead of Ayuso, who hasn't been too promising towards the tour?
I would have taken Majka instead of Ayuso, and I would have taken another rouleur.
Okay. I find it difficult because I don't know where Ayuso stands, but I think having Majka as a cornerstone within the team is something that inspires confidence, I think, for Pogacar as well.
Majka is so committed to Pogacar and the goal that even when he is allowed to go win the stage, he refuses to, he really knows his role.
Yeah, the Pellizzari stage.
Yeah. Okay. Onto the quote-unquote outsiders, BORA-hansgrohe and Primoz Roglic, the third favourite. Didn't finish the Dauphiné too well, but notwithstanding, he still won 3 stages and won the race. Bora are not confirmed yet, but I think we know at least 5 of the riders 100%. Primoz Roglic, Jai Hindley and Vlasov are his mountain support, which we saw in the Dauphiné. Then Sobrero is kind of that versatile rider. Then I would say the rouleurs will be Nico Denz, Marco Haller, and probably Danny Van Poppel on the provisional. But this is, to me, Benji, similar to UAE and Visma maybe. Yeah, you can talk about co-leader all you want, but at the end of the day, it's Primoz Roglic who's the leader of this team. The goal is to win GC with Primoz Roglic.
Exactly, and when it comes to the Dauphiné, yes, and he lost some time early. Yes, Vlasov was actually super strong in the last portion of the race there, and yes, on the final day, Roglic had a relatively bad day. He lost time towards a lot of riders that day, including Jorgensen and Rodriguez, that ended up fighting for the stage win. Well, fighting. Jorgensen kept riding while Rodriguez took the stage. But I don't know what to expect here when it comes to Roglic, because when it comes to the Dauphiné, it doesn't inspire me that he can win the Tour de France, but it does show me that he can compete for the podium and that third spot, or even second if one of the two big boys have a worse day or have a worse form throughout the race. So I think Roglic is probably it's hard to say. On one end, I want to say prime candidate to podium together with someone like Adam Yates. But on the other hand, he's got a very high crash rate compared to other GC riders. And Remco as well, to be honest. They both have relatively high crash rates. And Roglic crashed twice at the Dauphiné, crashed already at Basque Country as well in that race.
Twice.
When it comes to the team, I do think the worry we had before the season started, which is, can they lure Roglic to a safe position in sprints? I'm still a slight bit worried, but I'm probably less worried than I was at the start of the year for some reason.
I'm not worried about Bora per se. I think Van Poppel, Hallerden's pretty good, actually. Yeah. If you got DVP in there, he's really... The problem is Roglic can't hold the wheel. If you go watch Paris-Nice or Dauphiné, you see the lineup of Jungels, Haller, Sobrero, and there is no Roglic. He gets washed off the wheel. So it's not that they're weak in that, they just haven't made it work yet from what I've seen. But certainly Hindley was probably less than what he expected in the Dauphiné, but certainly had time to come back. And Vlasov was very, very, very good in the Dauphiné, actually. He was really, really strong. So they also were very committed to Roglic. The question marks about teamwork, own ambition, they worked very, very well all as a unit. And I think I saw a post that Danny Martinez, he was on the long list, I think, but he's doing some Gran Fondo not in Europe, maybe. I didn't check where it was, but in July. So I don't think he's in the team. He was like the wild card that might be in there, or Lipovitz, but I don't see it. I think they'll add another Rouleur and hope Hindley improves.
And also, before we venture onwards, I think there's a difference between Bora and Visma Lab in UAE, where I feel like the pressure to control the race, to lead, not to lead the race, but to lead the way the race flows, is more in the camp of Visma Lab and UAE, while Bora's team will be more the team that, we see an opportunity here, so we're going to jump in and try and take over for it and see if we can get something out of this specific stage, while the others might have to do it on more than the stages they want to go for themselves.
Yeah, and I see a bit of tension between how Roglic likes to race and how Bora raced with Hindley last year in the Tour, where they were jumping in the break, bit of chaos, and that worked really well. Whereas I think for Roglic, a closed, stable race, everyone's brought to their positions, goes for the sprint, bonies, time gap, good TT, happy days.
Third week Tour de France 2024. Ain't going to be a sprint up a climb, my friend.
Yeah,
it's going to be a sprint from the bottom of the climb, which is 10 kilometers.
That's the problem, is that, and as you say, it's not really up to them to carry the race, because it looks like Lab, UAE, and even INEOS, which we'll get to in a moment.
But when it comes to these riders, also Remco Evenepoel, we haven't spoken about, Remco, Roglic, Vingegaard, Pogačar. Over the last 2 years, we've spoken a lot about energy expenditure and being able to perform on very hard mountain stages. Which of these 4 GC riders do we have the most and least confidence on very high mountain stages? Because on paper, last year would have been Vingegaard, the big one. But now with Pogačar having a new trainer, I'm not necessarily sure that he's still having a bit of a vulnerability on a very hard stage after multiple hard stages on a very difficult climb at the end. That was maybe the vulnerability that was exploited in previous years. While right now, I don't know where he's at those climbs. When it comes to Roglic, the hardest stage of the Dauphiné, in my opinion, was the one where he ended up dropping. When it comes to Remco, he has shown weakness on a very hard mountain stage in the past, but the one in the Vuelta last year, I still don't know what happened to Remco there. Because the man dropped on the first climb, and it's hard for us to judge this externally, but feels like pressure was a big part of that as well, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's like, was he really worse than Almeida physically? And, Almeida also dropped, but he kind of grinded it out and he came 19th GC. And then the next day, Remco won 115K solos. So
Yep.
I haven't seen Remco perform really well on like a hard mountain stage at World Tour level since like the Vuelta 2022.
Yeah,
Maybe
but
I'm
the
missing
Vuelta
something?
2022, there was no very brutal mountain stage either, except maybe Sierra Nevada.
Yeah, and there he controlled it well himself, but you're right. It's a question mark. It's not there's not a clear answer, and so yeah, I would say it like you did, Benji. Vingegaard normally, and then Pogačar, and then I think a gap actually. But the thing is, when Pogačar cracks, it's not like a linear crack, you know.
Yeah.
When he cracks, it's like all of a sudden he's worse than David Gaudu and Jörg Zimmermann.
Yeah.
It's he either is winning or that. Like, and a moderately bad day for Pogačar is when he wins the sprint against Vingegaard.
It's as if the moments that he cracked in previous years, he capitulates because, I don't know, it's like he tries to hold on until he explodes. But then again, if you're on cold laws with 7K to go, what are you going to do? Drop early and try and pace yourself?
Yeah, but it was like Castro pacing. He already dropped, like, it's not like he held on too long.
Yeah.
He just was finished, you know? But how did the TT mentally affect him the day before as well? Big disappointment. But yeah, certainly there's question marks. And it's.
But I do not want TTs to decide this race for once. I want it to be decided on mountain stage.
No, I'm going to wait till that final TT.
Unless the last TT.
Oh, that one. The first one shouldn't. The first one, I think, is well placed. But yeah, there are question marks about Roglic because indeed the opening stages actually suit him and his team quite well. Onto Soudal Quick-Step. They're also not announced, but I think the team has been leaked here or there. Kasper Asgreen said he's not in it. Remco Evenepoel is leading the team. Mikko Landa, one of the best signings of the off-season. Soudal Quick-Step wanted De Plus or Sivakov. They got a better climber. They got Mikko Landa.
Yeah.
Ilan van Wilder there for mountain support as well. Louis Vivaca all-rounder. Casper Pedersen, the rouleur. Yves Lampaert, rouleur. Moscon is the other Il Trattore. And he is kind of the, again, I'll keep saying it, Benoit, maybe Tratnik, I don't know. Misk sort of role. Who knows what you get from Moscon? No Merlier, no Van Leeuwenberger, unless something drastically changes. They didn't win. I doubt they will. What do you make of this team, Benji?
First of all, I would have liked seeing Asgreen in the team. It's hard because he hasn't had the best season. His classics weren't good. When it comes to his form in the national championships, etc., he was okay in those races. Last year, he saved their Tour de France single-handedly. And then I look at the rest of the team and I'm like, okay, I don't know if Lampaert can do better what Asgreen would be doing, is how I see it. So I think Asgreen could have been in the team personally. That being said, even Casper Pedersen, for example, I think Asgreen could have been in that place. But Evenepoel Landa, perfect duo in my opinion. Van Wilder was a bit worrying during the Dauphiné, but then again, Remco was kind of worrying as well during the Dauphiné. I read somewhere, I don't know where, maybe I made this up in my head, that Lefebvre said something about Remco also being ill at the Dauphiné, not just the national championships, or did I make that up myself in my head?
I think, this is like the week, Benji.
The sandbag week.
No, like T-7 to Remco's main event of the year.
Yeah.
Patrick Lefebvre and Patrick Evenepoel start firing off interviews. It's like clockwork. It's like, don't. Like, I think...
You're the only Patrick that hasn't spoken about Remco publicly yet, so here's your chance.
Listen, I'm all in for Remco. Like, I hope he does really, really well. But it's... Yeah, Casper Pedersen, I don't think is very good, frankly. And like, Moscon, we don't know. Asgreen, he said he doesn't know the reasons. Did he want to go for stages? Certainly, it doesn't have many stage-winning options here if shit goes south for Remco. That's the problem. Yeah. It's really not hedging its bets with a sprinter, with a breakaway winner. Okay, Landa could go for it, I guess. To me, it's like one elite mountain domestique, Mikel Landa, and then kind of some Misk rouleur support.
And then what you're saying also is there's no real backup when it comes to stage wins or when it comes to breakaways or sprints.
Yeah.
But then your backup is kind of your mountain domestique, because Landa is the backup if something goes wrong with Remco, to the point that will he be going all out for Remco every single mountain stage?
Yeah, I think so. He did in the Dauphiné.
especially with the time trial coming in week 1.
Yeah.
I would consider that the option, but Lando was better at the Dauphiné than Remco.
Yeah. But he's got the worst reputation for someone who's not selfish most of the time.
No. There were days where he was selfish. The Aru versus Lando days at Astana, I will never forget as a previous Aru fan.
Let Lando cook. And Dauphiné, he was like waiting for Remco when he maybe otherwise wouldn't. Like I think Lando's a really good teammate.
Did he also not exit the Vuelta in the third week while Haig was fighting for GC? Just because he wasn't successful at getting in breakaway? Boy, help your dude out. He's in your team. Help him for GC. He was fighting for the podium. Sorry, but you can't come out on this podcast and put a plaque on your screen and say Lando hasn't been selfish at all. No. He has been selfish.
Padun was flying and would help Haig. He knew what's he going to do, ride faster than 2021 Padun? I don't think so.
Well, that's definitely true.
The next Outsiders team, we're putting him in here. Carlos Rodriguez, the leader for the INEOS Grenadiers, with one of the strongest teams in the race, in my opinion. Pidcock, Thomas, Rodriguez, Kwiatkowski, Turner, Castro, Bernal, De Plus. Bernal was very good on quite a few mountain stages in Swiss and then lost the podium spot in the final TT. De Plus was excellent in Dauphiné, 5th on GC. Rodriguez, 4th, won the hardest stage. Thomas, a big question mark to me. Pidcock, the wild card. Kwiatkowski, the all-rounder. Castro, the sort of diesel, the lightweight diesel. And Turner is the rouleur support. I think, Benji, this is one of the strongest and well-rounded teams, most well-rounded teams in the race.
Okay.
But I would have taken Hayter probably instead of Castro, or instead of Thomas. What do you think? Thomas will be in good shape?
I'm not sure I agree with your Hayter analysis. Yes, I'm super happy that he won the British National Championship. Genuinely.
Yeah.
But that being said, he has not had the greatest year so far before that. And I also don't see those Hayter stages, as many of them, in this race. So you'd have to hope he does well at the time trial and be a prominent domestique in the race, which he's shown to be at Romandy, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, Romandy, he was stronger than Castro on the hard stage.
So I think there's something there, but I think Castro's been a cornerstone in so many Grand Tours that you know you can depend on him. And I think that's a big thing. And I now lost the team, but there it is. I found it again. I think it's a strong team. And the question for me will be, after seeing Tour de France Unchained and the made-up drama between Pidcock and Rodriguez, oh no, will Pidcock ride for Rodriguez when necessary, or will he fight for his own GC? That's the big question. Now, on a serious note, I think Carlos Rodriguez can top 5 this Grand Tour. I hope he steps up to maybe fight for the podium, which I currently don't necessarily see yet. But I do think harder mountain stages fit Rodriguez better than easier mountain stages. And there's quite a few stages in this Grand Tour that I would classify as the stages I'd expect Carlos Rodriguez to do better in than a lot of other top 5 competitors.
Yeah, where Simon Yates could fall through, or whoever. And indeed, that's why I suggested Hayter, because what happens in a world where Vingegaard falls through?
Yeah,
you don't have Lab to make the race hard.
Lab.
And bear in mind, who was pulling last on Col de la Loze last year? It wasn't Visma. It was Castro and then Kwiatkowski who dropped Poggi in the end. And so...
And then Kus took over, right?
Yeah, but only after Pogacar was dropped.
Yeah.
Now, maybe Thomas in good shape. He's better than Hayter, of course, in the mountains. But I don't know the role of Pidcock and Thomas. Will they go for stages? I don't know. I think Pidcock will try and stay in GC for as long as possible. His Swiss was actually very good, I thought, GC-wise. I thought his most consistent GC race.
Hot take.
Yeah.
I don't even think his Tour de France last year was too bad. Top 15 in GC for the first time we're trying for GC. Yes, there's only X amount of people that really go for that spot, but it's more he was strong on the Unipuerto kind of stage, and it got harder on the very heavy mountain stages. And that's where I'm worried about Pidcock in this Grand Tour.
But this year he's been a little bit better on them. So on Tirreno Adriatico, on the Monte Petrano, super hard. Visma launched it, and he was solid. He actually dropped Aronsman, which he shouldn't have, but And then Bernal and De Plus, great shape. So very well-rounded team. I think one of the strongest teams in the race. Bear in mind, we spent quite a lot of time now on the top GC teams, which I think is appropriate. But
worth it.
Just to go to the sprinters teams, the green jersey winner last year returns, Jasper Philipsen with Mathieu van der Poel. I would say Robbie Gijs is definitely in, as well as Riesebeek. Kra Anderson, Vermeersch, Gianni, that is. Rickard, I would assume, is out. I haven't seen a report, but he looked like he maybe even broke his wrist. He was certainly holding it in the Belgian National Champs crash yesterday. He's the second last man before Van der Poel in the lead out normally, so I'd say Gijs would be in to replace him. It's only a provisional team at the moment, probably because of that injury or crash. But yeah, he's the favourite for the green jersey competition, Benji Jasper Philipsen, and I would say it's a weaker sprint field in general, but this team's about stage wins. Again, it's a very simple team it's like the old Quick-Step, right?
Yeah, it's true. It's got that sprint capabilities of Philipsen plus Van der Poel as lead out. Philipsen has not been the outstanding sprinter we saw last year this year. He's won multiple sprints already, but he's not been unbeatable. And last year, at a certain point, it felt like Philipsen was unbeatable in sprints. And with Van der Poel as lead out, that might return. But last year in the Tour de France, Philipsen also won sprints while Van der Poel was not there to lead him out. 1 or 2 in the second week, if I recall correctly. But it's also who's not here at this race when it comes to other sprinters. On paper, Merlier. On paper, Milan. And then I'm thinking, okay, who are the 3-4 best sprinters in the world? Well, I just named 2 of them that are not riding this race. So on paper, Philipsen should still be the favorite for a lot of sprints in this race, especially with this lead out. And for the stage wins, I kind of like the idea of Johnny Vermeersch for that Troy gravel stage.
Yeah, he was good in... Did he win Dwars Het Hageland ahead of a UNO-Exa?
I'm
testing you on your
yes,
ChatGPTs.
They dropped the dude from TDT Unibet, De Vries.
Yeah.
Abrahamsen.
Yeah, I think Vermeersch, so he's in good shape as well. Herman's looked okay, and he's not in the team, but they come in. This is the no one's spoken about Van der Poel, I swear, since Paris-Roubaix. It's like he goes off the map, and then he comes back, and they probably win stage 9, the gravel stage or something. Could even win stage 1 in theory. I don't think so, but yeah, it's a team around stage wins. No. Philipsen is the green jersey favorite as well. And I'll do a bit quick fire through the other sprinters teams. Cavendish returns, which is fantastic to see with Astana, Qazaqstan, the lead outs of Merku, Ballerini, Bol, Fedorov, and then there's Tejada, Gazzoli, and Lutsenko for probably, see where they go in GC, probably some mountain breakaways.
Quickly?
Yes?
Does he take his 35th stage win or not?
I mean, the sprint field is not so good. I'm going to go with yes, actually.
I'm going to go with yes as well.
Because there's just a lot of sprint stages. And like, as you said, Philipsen yesterday watching Belgian Natty Champs, I just thought he's going to come out of the wheel. He's going to come out of the wheel. And that moment, like last year, just hasn't happened. So, yeah, let's go Cav. Jayco, AlUla, Breen Groenewegen, Meds gets Reinders, Durbridge, Jules Jensen, Bling, as well as Simon Yates and Chris Harper. So, one climber for Simon Yates, and a pretty strong lead out actually for Groenewegen. If you got Matthews, Mezgets, actually pretty good lead out, and Groenewegen won Dutch Natty Champs yesterday. That's another sprinters team as well.
But last year, I vividly remember that Groenewegen was worse on the stage where Alpecin had a brutal lead out. I don't know if that's still going to be the case this year. I do think the fact that he's one of the top sprinters here, because there's a limited sprint field, which is weird to say about the Tour de France. I think that increases the chances of actually taking a Tour de France stage win this year.
Yep. Also, DSM announced to have Jacobsen supported by Eekhoff, Degenkolb, Bram Welton. They also bring Bardet, Barguil, Frank Vandenbroek, and Onley. Frankly, this is the best team they could bring, I would say, because Onley and Vandenbroek look really, really good, the young prospects, and then who knows what Barguil and Bardet can do. Other sprint teams include Israel Premier Tech. They bring Oul, Stewart, and Bovin around Ackerman, but then they also have G, who was 3rd or 4th in the Dauphiné. Chris Naylands, who should have won a stage last year, except there was no G2 syndrome. Fulsang, Williams. So also going for stage wins. Any other sprinter I've missed?
Well,
Benji.
little trek with Pedersen. I think that's an important one.
He's pretty good, yeah.
He's got Gibbons and also Stuyven and Squins as part of his lead out, if I'm looking at the team right now.
Yeah.
I feel like I miss a name that I would have expected to be there. Alex Kirsch.
Kirsch.
Did he?
He's been crucial.
Did he crash, or what was the reason?
He did the Giro. I mean, I don't know the reason, but yeah,
he DNF'd the Luxembourg road race, DNF'd stage 6 of the Critérium du Dauphiné, so maybe actually got an injury there that I don't remember.
Yeah, because normally it goes Schuens, Kirsch, Gibbons. That was the order on the stage 1 that Pedersen won. In the Dauphiné, Verona sort of can do everything all around her. I dare say, sorry, the big omission, Theo Gegenhardt, he had COVID. He's out of the race, unfortunately. He was going to be their GC leader. So I dare say they've put some moving pieces around there to refocus on Pedersen stage wins and or green jersey. And Ciccone, I never know. I hope he just goes for KOM and stages, actually.
And when it comes to Pedersen, he's also kind of like Lotto Dstny's Arnaud de Lee at this race, new Belgian champion. I'm actually pretty happy to see de Lee win the Belgian championships, especially after the first half of the year where he didn't have the success and it mentally kind of broke him, is what it seemed like. Now, I don't trust the Lotto Dstny lead out. I'll be honest about that. When I look at the team, Berlins has been okay in lead outs, but not against the Tour de France field. And I think the bias gone to the Tour because he's having another kid or something. I don't remember. Jared Drisner's, I'm not completely sold on myself. I'm looking at these riders, de Lee and Pedersen, I'm thinking, okay, those are the versatile sprinters. Okay, Philipsen is the pure sprinter. We've got Wout van Aert, who we haven't mentioned when it comes to sprints. He's on Visma Lease bike, had injuries at the start of the year as well, couldn't ride the Giro, built towards the Tour de France instead, is in the Tour de France, can sprint, can get over climbs, also versatile like Pedersen, etc. But I look at the point system and I'm like, okay, there's about 6 roughly pure sprint stages with 50 points. There's 3 hilly stages with 50 points, including stage 2 to Bologna, for example. Do you think it leans more towards Philipsen style riders or Pedersen / Van Aert style riders, or is it wrong to put Pedersen in the same bracket as Van Aert?
No, I think Pedersen is. Like, you see how well he can climb in the Dauphiné, and stage 1, it really depends how it's raced. We'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, clearly de Lee does not climb as well as Pedersen and Van Aert.
Yep.
But that stage 8 finish, if he makes it to that 500 meter, 6% uphill drag, based on what we saw yesterday at the Belgian national champs, no one's coming out of his wheel. So I think Lotto have to be very, very happy with how that went yesterday.
You need to be in front of them for them to not be able to get out of the wheel, and that's where I worry about de Lee. Can his positioning in the sprint be good enough to be ahead of the other riders when that sprint even starts?
Yeah, because you can't take 20 riders like you did in the Belgian national champs yesterday. But also, and then indeed, they're not bringing Bergmoos, who I thought was excellent yesterday. Brent Van Moor, I don't know what he did to earn his spot ahead of Bergmoos, frankly. Maybe they see it for the Barcelona breakaway stuff.
He was okay in Baloise Belgium Tour, I think, but okay, you know, I would have preferred to see Bergmoos as well, but he's also very young, so he's maybe doing Volta?
Yeah. Bahrain Victorious, also another stage hunting team, but Pello Bilbao, he said they're forcing him to do GC. He just wants to go for stages. He's sick of, and he came like 5th last year. It's not like he's a bad GC rider. He's very consistent. They bring Morich, Pouls, Bilbao, Bauhaus, Santiago, Buitrago, Haig, Fred Wright, Nikias, Arndt. The lead out for Bauhaus is Wright and Arndt, but no Soutalen. This team...
The lead out went backwards since Hausler retired. I'm sorry.
Oh, I think Arndt's okay. Or good in
the King Hausler. I still cry every night.
Is he in the car? But for Bora or for them?
I think for Bora.
Yeah.
Fucking traitor.
I mean, this team won 3 stages last year with 3 different riders. Pouls, Morich, and...
Bilbao?
That's correct.
They might do that again, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a nasty stage hunting team. They can do it on all terrain.
And Buitrago.
So, yeah. And Santi, as they say, is their leader. Maybe he'll go for GC. I think that might be... I don't see it, but his TT was very, very good in the Dauphiné, so why not try and see how you go.
Top 10 in the Tour might be worth it still, for Buitrago?
Yeah, he looks their best option at the moment. Cofidis bring Coquard, Guillaume Martin, Jonas Aguirre, Jesus Herrera, Simon Geschke, Renard Zangler, and Piet Allegaard. So they've got two versatile sprinters in Coquard and Zangler. Don't know how they'll go for Coquard, I think. And then climbers in Izaguirre, Martin, and Herrera. So they'll be going for stages, as many terrain as possible. Other sprinters, Demar, but Arkea are not announced yet, as well as Decathlon Desert Mondiale with Sam Bennett does make the team. I thought his shape actually was fine, generally speaking, in Dauphiné, as well as Amirel, Lapira, Prodom, Naesen, Dorian Godon, Nance Peters. That's the surprise one to me. And Felix Gall is their GC option.
I'm very happy to see Paul Lapera in there, especially after seeing him win the French Nationals, being great at the Hill Classics at the start of the year.
If you win French national champs, I'm pretty sure legally you have to do the tour then.
If they would leave him at home, the French didn't Seneschal or Cavagna have that at Quick-Step at some point, or did they get in at the cost of someone else? I don't remember. I think there was some drama. Sure. Cavendish staying home and maybe I don't remember. Anyway, we have a team here that has Bennett for the sprints, but I don't know where Felix Gall is at. He got 10 fits with a Swiss. He got some top 10s in mountain stages. I am worried about the GC bit for Felix Gall, but he can win a stage.
Win a stage? His TT is awful. The mountain support. The mountain support is a little bit surprising, actually. It's a team construction that suggests that they're not really committed to that GC bid, which I'm not saying is incorrect. It looks like a stage hunting team. I don't know if Clément Berthet is injured or not, but certainly he is better than Nance Peters in the year of our Lord, 2024.
And sorry, how many domestiques does someone like Felix Gall, who's trying to fight for top 5 in GC, maybe top 10, really need as domestique? Sorry, but he can figure it out himself.
I would have taken a Berthet if he was in good shape, because actually there's no one that can climb here.
Nance Peters can climb. Not amazing, but he can climb.
He did win a Tour de France break stage, but he's not looked the same since.
Mate, has he not won a Giro stage as well? Has he won a Vuelta one?
Yeah, he's a good break rider, but there must be something wrong with Berthet. There must be.
He should have peaked for the Vuelta. That's the one where he hasn't won a stage yet.
Movistar bring Enric Mas, Lazcano, Nelson Oliveira, Formolo, Aaron Broe, who just won Spanish national champs. Yeah, I know. Gaviria as a sprinter, Javier Romo, and Mühlberger is probably the best possible team they can bring. The lead out for Gaviria, don't know about that, but at least they got a sprinter. They've got Mas and Lazcano as climbers, and then other guys to go in breakaways. I think they'll go in the break as much as possible and hope that Enrique Mas can get a top 5 like he did in 2020 and 6.
Not looking good.
No, it doesn't look good.
Yeah. Aramburu wins 7 stages. That's the only thing I can conclude from that.
He's got addicted to winning.
Lazcano, though, I don't know what to expect.
They won't go
stage
for
win
GC,
is very possible.
No,
I think Lazcano needs to hunt for stages, and I think he can win. No, hot take, Lazcano wins 3 might be too much. Let's say 2 stages.
3? I mean, geez, I'd love to see it.
But he needs to lose time in week 1. Then he can win 2 stages.
Yeah, that's going to be the trouble for him. EF not confirmed, of course, for EF, but they bring Carapaz, who I've been going past training a fair few times, El Hagua.
Wait,
and then
you went past him in training?
No, other direction. He was going up El Serrat.
You dropped Carapaz?
Yeah, on it. Join cycling. FTP builder, buddy. I am actually cooking. But I'm not going that good. Bediol, I assume, will be there. Just won Italian national champs. Healy just won a stage in Slovenia. Palace, I'm not sure. Moran Vandenberg would be their sprint option, who gets over hills no problem. Total, Bergerot, Kras, Turgi, Jagat, Gachinard, Verchier, Dujardin, Grelier. Don't know who half of them are. Kras, good to see he's back from his crash as well. He was in that Basque Country crash. And also Bergerot, Aldi, Alaphilippe.
Prediction. Gachinard will be in 7 breakaways in this race. Because I swear I've seen him in every breakaway this year.
He was good in French national champs yesterday. Came 3rd. Maybe a bit too generous. And Groupama FDJ just announced David Gaudu going, Geniet, Gregoire, Kung, Lenny Martinez, who was supposed to do the Vuelta, Valentin Madouaz, Quentin Paché, and Clément Rousseau, and the tweet says gagner, meaning to win, which, unless David Gaudu has improved a lot, I think they mean stages.
I think so as well.
Not GC.
Nah, my
Which
friend.
Is good.
They're going
Which
for the
is
green
good.
jersey, my friend.
Lenny Martinez, polka dot, and stage. Is that not what the prophecy foretold?
Yeah. I would love that. Gregoire as well. Go for stage wins. I think there's a viability here for 1 or 2 stage wins for Groupama on this race.
I would love to see it. And then, actually, would I?
Gaudu?
Nah. I'd love to see Lenny win a stage. UNOX bring Kort Kulset, Rasmus Tiller, Odd Christian Eiking, Christoph, Soren Varnskold, Tobias Johannesson, and Abra Hansen. Also their best riders, all Norwegian team.
He is.
Magnus Kort is Danish. He's Danish. But yeah, it's also going for stages quite clearly. The problem I see is that they, apart from Johannesson, do not have great climbing support, and I think a lot of the break stages you need to be able to climb. And also, yeah, the Barcelonette stage, you're like, Abrahamson would be so good for that. He would be so good. And then you realize who's going to be in that breakaway. Mads Pedersen, Mathieu van der Poel, Wout van Aert, Christophe Laporte, and you're like, Jonas Abrahamson's a nice rider? Oh, Jesus. Moritz.
I was about to say that Christoph will win on the Champs-Elysees, but it will be easy to do that because everyone else is in Nice.
Christoph won the last Nice stage as well. In 2020, he won the sprint on UAE.
He's not winning the TT, my friend.
Why not?
Because he's fucking slow in a time trial.
He's 80 kilograms.
He's a red turtle.
Come on, leave it. Okay, Magnus. Yeah, but yeah, they'll go for... they might have somebody who I might pick for stage 1 in that team. So I think it's clearly Kort for the hard sprints and Christoph for the real sprints. Have I missed any teams, Benji, before we get into the stages?
Probably. I think we haven't mentioned the F too much, but well, their roster is invisible, so who knows who they'll bring. But when it comes to the other riders, I think we've gone over every single team. So I think it is time. It is time to go through every single stage one by one. This time, I'm doing odds and you're doing evens because we like to spice things up on this very, very serious podcast. Anyway, let's get into it. Stage 1, Firenze to Rimini, 206 kilometers on paper, and it's got loads of mountains. I would classify this as a medium mountain stage. We've got 6 medium mountains and a hill in it. The climbs start already after 25 kilometers with, let me the glasses off again, Côte Trefaggi, something like that. Can we just talk about this before we get into the actual stages? Why does the Tour de France feel the need to translate every single Italian climb to Côte de Trefaggi or something instead of like the Poggio di Trefaggi or whatever it is?
It's the Côte de San Luca on the next stage as well. It's like...
Anyway, that being said, there's loads of climbs on this one. The last 80 kilometers will be the most important though. And then I'm looking at the Barbotto climb with about 70 kilometers to go, which is 6 kilometers at 7.6%, followed by a bit of a plateau on top, then descending. And we almost immediately start the Côte de San Leo, which is 4.8 kilometers at 7.5%, followed by a climb just after that, which is the Côte de Montemaggio, which is 4.3 kilometers, 6.7%. And then finally, we've got the Côte de San Marino, 7.1 kilometers at 4.7%. Question, is the Côte de San Marino in San Marino? And second question, do the GC riders light this one up?
Côte de San Marino is in fact through San Marino. I think that's why Tiberi couldn't start the race. I don't know if he was barred from San Marino, but
Jesus Christ.
It is through. I actually don't, jokes aside. If anyone knows. But do the GC contenders light it up? Someone will. And that's it. UAE Benji have to. I mean, not even them. Why can't... This is a good stage for Primoz Roglic, for Alexander Vlasov, for Remco Evenepoel. This is an Italian classics. Grand Départ,
Mm-hmm.
206 Ks. It's like I don't know, it's super hard. The problem is, this is very, very similar stage design to the Hayskabel stage last year. Same distance almost from the top of the last climb to the finish. Same length of climb. The problem is it's 4.8% and steady. It's not fake news with 2Ks at 10% at the end as a launch pad. Hayskabel was 7.5% for the last 4Ks. So that is like, Poggy's good, Benji, don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But also 5% is 5%. And he does not just drop Remco or Primoz Roglic on their good level on 5%.
I agree, but when I look at the climbs, when I look at the stage, this feels like a raid stage where you go on the fourth or third last climb. You try and make it hard on the fourth last climb, you then launch on the fifth last climb, but you don't do that on a stage 1 on paper. So that's the one question mark I have with this stage, together with the initial who will try to go in the break and who will try to control that factor, because a lot of KOM points here, and if you get all the KOM points in this stage, and I'm pretty sure you will be leading that for 3 stages. That was shorter than I expected. but like, man,
UAE
is there breakaway options here?
No.
Okay.
Because
too many people want yellow.
The stage will start, and Mads Pedersen and UNOX will think they can take yellow with Court and Pedersen. Because if this was a midweek Dauphiné stage, they probably could win. Because, you know, the riders and the teams do make the race. But then what will actually happen is we will get to the Côte de Barbato, 6.1K, 7.5%, and I expect UAE to start smashing it. Because you cannot just start on the last climb, right? Like, the steeper climbs are earlier, and so I expect them. Now, do they actually try to attack with Almeida or Ayuso? I don't know. Because, like, Vlasov also is so good. Like, you cannot... It might be an exercise in futility, because, like, Bora and Quick-Step are good, so... I don't know, but just those four... When De Barbato comes and the next climbs, that will determine... Is it a Pedersen stage? Is it a Van Aert stage? Is it a Bettiol stage? Or is it really like a GC Pogacar stage?
Well, you're saying a Bettiol stage? To me, a Bettiol stage is only a situation where he can ride away in the last 2 kilometers because of group dynamics. And I lean more towards maybe an outsider of Maxim van Gils, who also has that kick in the sprint like he showed in Eschborn Frankfurt.
Bettiol's my pick for the stage, for the same reason. So I think Bettiol wins like Lefay won last year.
Yeah.
And Van Gils, he can win the same way. He can also win from the sprint.
Yeah.
Because he is super fast. So you, both of us, I think I see a group of 15 to 20 at the finish. The last climb is just not hard enough. I think, it would have to be such a crazy pace to do anything else. But, you know, it is Pogacar and UAE. But, yeah.
I'm going to go and say that my brain says Pogacar wins the stage. My heart says Maxim van Gils wins this stage.
Both gone outsiders. Stage 2, 200.5 kilometers long. Not as difficult overall as the previous stage. Much more flat for the first 150 Ks. Who will control the breakaway is the interesting question. Probably, you know, if UAE don't control it, like, does Roglic, he's won Giro dell'Emilia before. Do Bora control it?
Maybe, or Lotto, because Van Gils is clearly in yellow after my prediction. But
exactly.
No, on a serious note, we might have a random yellow jersey wearer that might have a team protected on this stage.
Yeah,
but on the other hand, talking about Vingegaard, I think the reason that UAE might smash stage 1 is also because they don't know where Vingegaard is and might want to know where Vingegaard is before they settle into the next couple of stages, because this stage 1 seems like a relatively harmless stage where you can try and smash it and see if Vingegaard stays with you or not.
Yes, but also it's this type of stage where Almeida, on a 10-12 minute explosive effort, on an opening stage of a Grand Tour, not his bread and butter either.
But it's also a stage where Ayuso might be a chance to ride away, might be your attacker, while then you see what happens with Visma. It's where you can play out that multiple leader strategy.
For sure. And stage 2 indeed is give those sort of opportunities as well, because we have 2 repetitions of the Côte de San Luca. It's been francophonized, as Benji said. Not sure if that's a word. 2 kilometers at 10%. There is a couple of warm-up climbs before where maybe teams pace, but there's like proper valleys between them. It's all about from the second last San Luca. And then the last San Luca is crests 12Ks from the finish, short descent, and then a 1K 5.4%. That's where you could see a Betiol of Vlasov if they make it, a Lafay if he existed, and then a short descent, and then a maybe 7Ks, more like 6Ks to the flat finish in Bologna. It's not Giro dell'Emilia is where this climb has been used before, where Roglic has dropped Pogacar, where Enric Mas has dropped Pogacar, but this has actually a flat finish, and this is indeed the Tour de France, not a Wednesday race in October. So I think Poggy goes for it, Benji. Like, he went on Côte de Piquet, he got the lead out and went on Côte de Piquet. I don't see why they're not going to do it. He went on stage 1 in the Giro d'Italia, not just to drop Vingegaard, because he can go try and win the stage. It's pretty clear to me. Or do you think they do something different and suddenly on first San Luca we see Adam Yates launching?
Nah, not necessarily. I think Roglic is also an option for this. But then the question for me is, what happens if Roglic and Pogacar maybe gap the others a little bit? Will Roglic ride with Pogacar over the top? I actually don't know the answer to that.
We should.
I think so too.
Well, yeah, I think so.
I think he should.
Yeah,
but then I'm more worried when it comes to Remco on this stage, and it's weird because he's won races like LBL and so forth, but then in Grand Tours on these kind of stages, he kind of always rode tempo and was behind. Like Fossombrone scares me for this.
Yeah, but he had COVID the beginnings of it. But I agree with you. You know, I think actually Quick-Step should be aggressive on this. You know, they should be positive about this stage in theory, but in Grand Tours they think a bit differently.
Like on stage 1, for example, that's the kind of race where, isn't that the kind of race where Remco would go with 50 kilometers to go and try something?
Yeah.
Won't happen in a Grand Tour.
You can't though, because you go and then like you have Sivakov and Soler pacing behind you. It's
sorry, but the Remco's kept tougher people than Sivakov and Soler behind him on climbs and on valleys and on descents, etc. So I'm not worried about them too.
I think Pogacar wins this stage in a sprint, but I could also see again a different winner like Jorgensen, like Yates won after Côte de Piquet. We saw this is the Côte de Piquet stage. Even Vlasov could win attacking. Probably Bora won't play it like that, but I think I'm going to go with Pogacar from a sprint of 10 guys.
It's like I said, ahead on stage 1, Pogacar, hard, Maximilian Hills, for example, but kind of got a similar feeling for a stage like this, where you might have that late attacker like a Bettiol or a Van Hills, or it's probably more names, Alex Aramburu, who knows? I don't want to pick the same rider as you though, because that's a bit stupid. So I'm gonna go with
El Hagua.
No, I won't go for Carapaz. No way in hell I'm gonna go for Carapaz on this
Stevie
day.
Williams.
It's actually not a bad shout for this. I'm gonna go with Stevie Williams.
Oh, really? I mean, if he's in the shape of the Ardennes, then like it's not a joke. Like he should be there. And indeed, maybe Paul Lapira is suddenly there because Decathlon are flying this year. But they're the opening 2 stages. Benji, certainly, you know, Pogacar and UAE, they'll be looking at those, one would think, because but you can't also, you can take some gaps, but I also don't see how you can kill the Tour de France on those 2 stages either.
Exactly, it's a super cliche saying, but you can't win the race here, but you might lose the race here because you might have a bad day here and lose 3-4 minutes or 1-2 minutes, or a second leader like Ayuso might lose 2 minutes, or Almeida might lose a minute or 2 on a stage like this, and you might see it differently after that. Exactly, like Arensman at the Giro. And I'm less worried about Jorgensen, to the point that I actually see a possibility where on stage 1 or stage 2, there's a scenario where a UAE rider goes and maybe Jorgensen goes with him, and you've got maybe Adam Yates and Jorgensen riding off. But then again, will Jorgensen ride with Adam Yates? I'm not so sure about it. But it's not unlikely to me that one of those guys, a UAE rider or a Visma rider that is not the leader on paper, the full leader, wins a stage of these first 2. That's not impossible in my head. But anyway, Stage 3, Piacenza to Torino. Yes, I Italianified it again because I'm not happy with the Frenchification of everything here. 231 kilometers? Why do you make a flat sprint stage of 231 kilometers on stage 3 of a Grand Tour?
Because we're in Italy, baby. 200 Ks
Can't believe it. 2 corners at 1 kilometer. So there's 2 corners in the last kilometer. At a kilometer to go, at 800 meters to go. So pretty straightforward sprint. I'm going to go with Jasper Philipsen.
I think the kilometer to go, the safety thing is moved from 3 to 5 on this stage.
Okay.
From memory. You're going with Philipsen. I am going with Mark Cavendish on this. I think he's good on the long, hot stages.
I'm not having it. We're not having a Cavendish win so early in the Grand Tour. It needs to wait until the last possible moment for me.
For the lead out to click, yeah. But that's a sprint transition stage, quite obviously. Who do you think will be controlling? Alpecin, Astana, Jayco,
all the sprint teams.
They'll all put a rider.
Yeah.
They'll all put a rider.
And we're that early in a Grand Tour where people might not be thinking, okay, we need to put all the pressure on Jasper Philipsen's team.
Yeah. They'll think he's beatable, which he is, to be honest.
Yeah.
Stage 4, another GC stage from Pinerolo, crossing the border. We go back into France, finishing in Valois, 138 kilometers long with near on 4,000 meters elevation gain. It's like they start with 50 Ks uphill, but it's 40 Ks to Sestriere. But that's at 3.7% average. It's not the hardest climb, but it's to over 2,000 meters descent, and then up to Col de Montgenèvre, which is 8.2 Ks, 6.1%, with a couple of steeper sections at the beginning. Then a bit of a valley for, 25 Ks, and then they begin the Galibier from the, I think, quote-unquote, the easy side. I think this is the side where Roglic and Vingegaard attacked Pogačar in the 2022 Tour de France, but I don't know my Galibiers from my Galibiers. Anyway, it's 24 kilometers at 5%, up to 2,600 meters. Yes, the first part isn't as steep, but the last part is 8.7 K, 6.6%. And I guess if you're doing a rule of thumb and you're saying altitude makes it a whole harder, you could say that's the equivalent of doing like an 8% climb, let's say, given that they're going to 2,600 meters before a 19-kilometer descent with almost no flat to Valois. I don't think it's the most technical. I think it's a fast, like, straight line descent. I don't know, Benji, KOM situation on this. It's got to be crucial already for like if you take poker points on top of Galibier from the break, you're in that for a while.
That's actually only 20 points, shockingly. Really? So our category is 20 points. Then you've got first category, which is 10 points. Then second category, which is 5 points. Then third category is 2 points. And fourth category is 1 point. And there's one climb on stage 19, I think, Cime de la Bonnette, the highest one in this race that is double points. So 40, I'm pretty sure. But I must say that I will call you out. Sorry, but this is the Galibier. The Galibier from 2011. I'm pretty sure this is the same side. I'm looking at the profiles of both stages right now. You've got Besançon start. You've got the Les Bains part in the middle there. You've got the Lotaret part before the top of the Galibier. This is the one where Cadel Evans fought back against the Andy Schleck and Frank Schleck attacks and brought home an Australian yellow jersey. And you forgot about that? Shameful.
Probably only got told on the news. And I was like, oh, cycling exists. What's that?
And that's where it began, baby.
Yeah. Not far from the truth. But yeah, okay. So it's certainly hard enough that you don't want to have a bad day here. That being said, Benji, I think the breakaway's got a really good chance here, just like on Marie Blanc. To me, this is positioned like the Marie Blanc stage last year, where there's a big breakaway fight, and indeed there's a hard uphill where they can fight for an hour and a half to make that happen on Sestriere. And that being said, there's more teams like INEOS Bora and Quick-Step who might want to control better, like have a more controlled race than like a chaotic race compared to last year. I don't know. But I think a breakaway's got a good chance. Now, this is where, Benji, if you're Ciccone, if you're Buitrago, if you're Bilbao, this is the sort of stage where Pello Bilbao probably wants to lose deliberately 10 minutes on stage 1. So he can go in the break and win. It's a descent finish. He's the best descender in the world, you know? And the quality of climber in this breakaway will be significantly worse than the quality of climber on stage 20. That's just how it works in Grand Tours. So we'll see who falls out of GC, who's smart enough to go for that, who sacrifices. I mean, you can always come back in GC, but or do you not see it? Do you think UAE shut this down, Benji, and try launch some attacks on Galibier to do what Visma did in 2022?
I'm not sure I expect that necessarily. I think a break has an opportunity here. The one thing that's worrying for me is that it's such a short stage. So the breakaway formation will take quite a bit of time. And by the time that break is formed, we might not necessarily see, I don't know. For me, it's a hard stage to predict. There's so many GC riders we have now on paper that they might actually be willing to. There's always a chance that one of the teams might be interested in trying something on this parcours. And it wouldn't shock me either that if Visma is confident in Vingegaard, that they might try something on a parcours like this either. But it doesn't seem long enough necessarily, the stage, I would also think. And it's like on paper, you'd think back, okay, what did the Granon stage look like? It didn't look like this, you know? The last climb here is the Galibier with a descent to the finish. There's some risk there if you attack on the climb, but I do expect action on this stage when it comes to GC, but not necessarily at the front of the race. And when it comes to a stage win, I'd also lean to the breakaway, and it then depends on will Ciccone go for stages or for GC? Because if he goes for stage, this is one that he definitely can win, but I feel like he might be going for GC a little bit at the start of this race. Romain Bardet from the breakaway, I'll wing it and say that, but I fear that he will go for GC for the first week. But he shouldn't.
Or Frank van den Broek for DSM. I'm going to go with Tom Pidcock. I think Pidcock, if he's not winning stage 1 or 2, I think on stage 3 he's got to sit up, lose 10 minutes, go for this one.
I think that's a fantastic pick.
Easy dub. If he goes in the break. So, but we'll see. Sometimes the allure of GC is too strong for these riders, or indeed the team, like with Bilbao, wants them to stay in GC.
Yeah, but I don't know where I stand on the Pidcock GC part. I don't know what to expect.
He should. If with Rodriguez there as the clear leader, I would go for the stage. With Bilbao, they want him to also be the leader. Okay, stage 5, Benji.
Okay, stage 5 from Saint-Jean-de-Maurienne to Saint-Vulbas. It's basically a sprint stage. There's 2 hills in there, but they're actually not that notable. And when it comes to the actual sprint, there's no bends in the last 2 kilometers, so it's pretty straightforward again. I would say that on this stage, it's going to be the big sprinters again fighting against each other. I'm going to go for someone different, even though I feel like Philipsen is the favorite here. I'm going to go for not Cavendish yet. It's too early for that. Dylan Groenewegen.
I'll go with Philipsen. But yeah, Groenewegen also normally is pretty good in the first week. Stage 6 is another sprint, 164 kilometers long from Masson, I don't know, to Dijon. It's flat.
Mustard.
Mustard territory, potentially crosswind territory. I don't know how exposed it is up here. It's certainly very flat. And here I'll go for Dylan Groenewegen.
That's also a good pick, I think, because it's pretty damn flat. And I'm not sold in calling the lead for these sprints because I feel like his positioning might not be good enough on these stages. I'm going to go for Philipsen again.
Stage 7, Benji. TT.
Okay. Time trial. We've got Nuit Saint-Georges to Gevrey-Chambertin. 25.3 kilometers. I'll be honest. There were 2 different profiles I saw for this. The first profile was the ASO Tour de France one. I was like, this looks pretty flat. Then I opened the Flamme Rouge profile and was like, there's an actual climb in there.
There's a climb in it.
And the climb is 1.6 kilometers at 6.5%. I had to put my screen sideways so I can actually read the profile. I feel like we're gonna see GC riders already pop up in the TT standings. What other time trialists are in this race that could be going for this time trial specifically? I think Van Aert might be going for this time trial as well. Koen definitely also, but winning I'm not really necessarily sure about. I think Remco destroys this one.
It's a hilly TT. It's got 10 meters elevation gain per kilometer, I think. It's got over 250
and it's week
meters.
1.
And it's week 1. This is also the TT that Pogacar can just win. So I'm going to go with Tadej Pogacar winning the TT. Normally Remco on a flat TT should beat him, but with that hill and then Pogacar can like just explode on the hill, that 1500 meter 6% hill. Like, I still think Benji took Remco, so I can't pick him, but do not be surprised if Poggy wins this TT. Do not be
I'd be surprised.
Really? Why? He won this TT in 21.
I've said for an entire year that Remco's going to destroy this TT, so I can't back now. So
true.
I need to stay on my ground. No one else is going to win this TT.
Roglic in top shape, also dominant in these sort of TTs with a punchy hill, and he is really so. I expect there to be gaps. I think Vingegaard's the one that should be losing time to all three of them in the TT.
Well, on paper, yes, but we saw a pretty crazy TT last year, so I wouldn't be shocked if we see a crazy TT again this year when it comes to Vingegaard. So I do expect it more to be stage 21 than stage 7, though, when it comes to Jonas.
Are we discounting Van Aert?
For the victory, yes. Personally.
Yeah, Remco with the hill. Yeah, Remco hill, he should be good. Even if you don't believe in Remco in the mountains, as a TT rider, he's world champ for a reason. Stage 8, 176 kilometers long from Semur on Ossoir, past the Oxcord, to Colombey Les Deux Églises, to Churchtown. So
yes.
Very, very hilly. It opens with 3, Benji wouldn't call them medium mountains, he'd call these hills.
Correct.
They're like 10-minute, 8-minute climbs at about 5 to 6%, 3 of them in a row. No flat. That's in the first 40 Ks in the first
15
hour.
Is where a medium mountain starts.
I think it's 10 minutes. I think it's
okay.
10 minutes. Anyway, lost my train of thought. So it's not so easy to control the breakaway formation. Then we have rolling hills all day. It can be super hot here, and then it finishes with an uphill drag. Normally I would say a break could win. I think with Van Aert, Lee, and with Pedersen,
Visma will not control.
Nah, they shouldn't.
They'll be looking at Pedersen with Little Trek. Cofidis with Kokar will help control the stage.
Oh yeah, Lecoq and Zangler.
Lee with Lotto, I'd expect to control this stage.
Court.
And yes, also, I'm going to go with Lee on this one. I know it's a Mas Pedersen stage, but I feel like Pedersen might actually get dethroned here. And it's also, because of the stage profile, it might also be a little bit easier for Lee to position himself after such a harder stage than a pure flat sprint. So I'm going to go with Lee on this one because it's on paper, in my opinion, the stage he can most win out of the entire race. But so can Pedersen.
Yeah. I think, I haven't checked the exact gradients, but maybe it's not even too hard for Christoph. You went with Lee?
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Binny if he does.
You're not going to go with Lecoq? I expected it.
Nah,
to be honest.
Lecoq don't have the horsepower normally. I'll probably win now, but with Zangler leading him out, like they got 2 great guys for this finish in Zangler and Coquard. But also don't be surprised to see Sam Bennett do well here. I know I've not always been the biggest proponent of him, but actually, do not be surprised to see him do well here.
In the past, he would have been up there, but I don't see it anymore.
Yeah.
But anyway,
take us to the rest.
198 kilometers. It is the gravel stage. And there's loads of gravel segments in here. I actually forgot how many kilometers in total that there is gravel in this. 14 sectors. If I remember correctly, there was about 30 kilometers in gravel. So let's hope I'm not making this shit up on the spot here. There's some harder gravel sectors in the middle of the race because they're climby. And my worry about this parcours is that if I look at the route, the hardest part of the route is in the middle of the stage. There's still gravel in the last 40 kilometers, but those are flat ones. So I kind of feel like this is either a breakaway stage where a breakaway goes up the road, and then we've got a Fuga de la Fuga on the hills with a few riders that get towards the flatter gravel sectors, or we've got Little Trek thinking they can control this for Pedersen, and Alpecin thinking they can control this for Philipsen, and Lotto thinking they can control this for Lee. And then it might also be a bit of a very reduced kind of fight between versatile gravel sprinters. I don't know what to expect.
Let me add another name into the mix. Mathieu van der Poel.
Oh yeah, fuck.
He's pretty good on flat gravel. I mean, servant. Yeah, like Van der Poel is a nasty rider for this finish. I mean, we saw Roubaix. The last 50Ks of this are flat, by the way. So, like, do not compare this to Strada Bianca. This is not Strada Bianca. Yeah. There are some hills in the middle phase that Benji said, but the last hour of this is flat. Yes, there's gravel, but it's not the same as Strada Bianca whatsoever. So don't expect a GC group suddenly of like 10 guys, 8 guys with an hour to go.
Yeah.
That normally should not happen. But then we saw on the flat, when there's a mixture of terrain, there's one team that's the best in the world. That's Alpecin Deceuninck.
Yep.
With Philipsen and all their guys for Mesh. So,
I would like to ask Alpecin right now, how about you pretend this is Paris-Roubaix and you go on to every single sector with the same curiosity you had at Paris-Roubaix just to see the GC riders cry at the back of the peloton. There's quite a few GC riders that would do well on this. Pogacar, for example. There's also a few where I have question marks. Not sure how happy Remco would be if Alpecin does that. Roglic, Jonas as well. I don't know. Roglic, to be honest, GP Danet 1.5, 2 years ago was pretty good at a couple stage, shockingly.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Almeida won't be happy if this goes home, I think.
And by the way, Alpecin Deceuninck thankfully just announced their team. Rickard is in, so forgive my assuming he was out. Thankfully, he seems to have recovered from yesterday's crash. And it is a nasty team for this stage. Laurence, Rickard, Gianni Vermeersch, Robbie Gijs, Dillier, Anderson, Van der Poel, Philipsen. They can win it in a whole different number of ways.
Wait, is Laurence an outsider for stage 2?
Stage 1
or have we skipped Van der Poel for those first 2 stages?
I mean, he won on He won on the Mur de Bretagne. I think Emilia is too hard.
I think so too.
Emilia is too hard, and you never know what shape he'll be in. But Laurent, certainly, he is very, very good for that sort of stage.
Where were we?
GC on this stage. What do you think happens, Benji? To be honest, I don't see like Pogacar attacking. I don't see like what I see is some GC guy. Unfortunately, is going to have shit luck, and it will cost him time. I don't think it's like, I don't know. You can make the race by attacking here.
I hope we see GC action on the stage, but I agree that it's more going to be GC riders being involved in how the race is played out by the riders trying to win the stage and maybe acting accordingly. If Van der Poel goes, maybe Pogacar just says, I'm going to jump in the wheel and try and benefit from this move and see if the other GC riders react. I think that's not an impossibility in this race. So I agree. I agree with you, but I do see some opportunities that maybe a GC rider might try to spice things up. That GC rider being Tadej Pogacar. Stage 10. Sprint stage? Oh yeah, fuck. Who did I pick? Lascano.
Lascano, that's a good pick. I'm going to go with Van der Poel. I don't think he's turning up for 3 weeks in July just to do lead outs. I think there has to be some stages that Alpecin said he can go for. I'm evens as well, Benji, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah. First rest day.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I forgive myself.
I do that every preview. Orléans to Saint-Amand, Montrond, 186 Ks is a sprint stage. There's a little hill near the finish. Don't think it matters. I'm going to go with Philipsen.
Okay, I will allow it, and I'll do an upset and choose the same rider. Oof. I'll also pick Philipsen. 3 bends in the last kilometer, 1 with 450 meters to go. Probably won't make too much of a difference here. So on to stage 11, we are speed running through these sprints because let's be honest about it, there's not much to talk about.
You mentioned the corners though. Now we have the Alpecin team. We also think they have the best lead out here, right? I think that.
Yeah, but also the corner is also not at 300 meters to go, so it's not like Gaviria will be winning. That's also an important factor. Stage 11, Evaux-les-Bains to Le Laurent. This is an interesting stage in my opinion. It's already a bit of hidden altitude in the first half of the race. It looks flat, but it's got a bit of ups and downs everywhere. Second half of the race gradually moves up towards Puy-Marie, which I don't remember exactly what year Puy-Marie was in. Was it 2020?
2020, Danny Martinez beat Kemna, and Roglic just rode tempo with Boggy.
Yeah, exactly. And this climb is about 5.3 kilometers at 7 point whatever percent. That's That's fake news. I'm sorry, but I'm not accepting that. I'm not. Is this one of the OG fake news climbs? I think it might be. The first 3 kilometers of this climb is 4 to 5.5%, and the last 2 kilometers is 9.3 and 13.4 kilometers. Percent. Sorry.
Yeah, it's Marie Blanc. it's maybe even harder. It's a fake news stage. It's a fake news. This is a hard GC stage.
Yeah.
Like, it's 211 Ks. It's in the Massif Central. Could be 40 degrees. There could be hard breakaway fight. And then you got these climbs all put together that are all steep.
This is the third last climb. There's 2 climbs that follow afterwards. So I'm thinking Puy-Marie as a launching pad. There's a bonus point on the next climb, which that climb is 4 kilometers at 8.2%. So it's also very hard. And then the final climb is at the finish line, or just before the finish line, and is the Col de Fond, which is 3.4 kilometers at 5.6% roughly. So to be honest, if Puy-Marie isn't the launching pad, the one afterwards is the launching pad for the bonus second. So it won't be fought on the last climb. This is a really good stage design for a great last 45 minutes.
Yeah, I think so. And the break can go deep on this stage, and you can do a lot on this sort of stage. It's, I really, really like it. And as
Steady
Benji
Pikachu
said,
wins.
You think?
Yeah. Or Roglic, what do you think?
Ciccone from the break.
Really?
Yeah. UAE.
It's a long stage.
They got to control a long time.
Yeah,
you got to control 4 hours.
Very fair.
Before you get to Naron.
I'm still going to stick with Pogacar because I can't change my picks, but I agree that a break is more likely than the GC riders.
Yeah. But a very, very interesting stage. Stage 12 from Aurillac. Geez, I'm having trouble with the French names today. To Villeneuve-sur-Lot. It's a sprint stage, 204 kilometers long. It's a bit hillier than the others. If there's been a dominant sprinter, this is where we might start to see some realism from some breakaway teams, where we see Abrahamsen getting in the breakaway here rather than going for Christoph or Court, indeed. Maybe not yet. Maybe this is still... but certainly a break could try. Should be a hard start, but I still think it will be a sprint because there's too many versatile sprinters like Pedersen, De Lee, etc. So I'm going to go with Mads Pedersen.
Okay, that's a fair pick. I'm going to go with... I think Philipsen survives that, so I'm going to go with Philipsen on that one. But then I'm going towards stage 13. I feel like it's kind of a carbon copy, not really, but
same stage.
it kind of feels like it will go the same way. 165 kilometers, so 40k shorter when it comes to controlling. So seems like an obvious sprint to me. In the last 40 kilometers, 2 hills in there of 6% that are more than a kilometer long. So there's something to work with, but I don't expect anyone to do it. So I think this is the Mads Pedersen's. Yeah, I think Little Trek should make those climbs as hard as possible, and let's see who sprints at the end, but I'm going with Mads Pedersen.
I'll go with Wout van Aert, much for the same reasons. Stage 14, starting in Pau, where it finishes the day before, 151.5 kilometers. This is our first, Sestriere Galibier is hard, but this is our first, I would say, proper multi-mountain stage with a hard finish. It's our first mountaintop finish, I think I'm correct in saying. They do the 70Ks valley, where we see fighting, then the Col du Tourmalet, 19Ks, 7.5% to 2,100 meters. Then the Orquette d'Ancison, which is where Michael Bjerg dropped everybody in 2022 before the Périgord. That is a up and down climb, 8Ks, 5%, but the actual climbing parts are steeper. They're over 7%. Then a descent, short valley, and then Pla d'Ardèche, 10Ks, 8.7%. Benji, this is a fake news finish, right? It's harder. It's got like a descent in it.
Yes, but it's weirdly a fake news climb that is still very bloody hard, because sometimes you've got these like fake news climbs that are like the Konya finish in the Giro 2 years ago, for example, where the start of the climb is harder, but then it flattens out towards the finish line. On the profile, this climb looks like that, but when I look at the actual mountain profile of the climb itself, and I see first kilometer 8.7, then 10.7, then 8.8, then a kilometer of 13.1 percent, 7.2, 9.6, 9.7, And that's the one where it suddenly shows up 3 kilometers from the finish line, minus 1.7% on the third last kilometer. But then again, 9.6, 7.3. So it's really only that 1 kilometer that breaks it up, which I think the gaps will already be made before that kilometer happens.
Yeah, I think so. It's a pretty obvious launching point when you have 11% kilometer before an easier section. So I think Pogačar wins this stage. Could win in a sprint, could win with a small gap, like on Colteré, but it's hard to go past Pogačar on this sort of finish, to be honest. 30-minute climb, steep, hard before, but not like the hardest stage. Yeah, looks like
I agree with you. I also have Pogačar here. Do we still look at the length of the climb to see whether it's a Vingegaard or Pogačar stage? Because when I look at his profile, this one seems more the Peragut kind of style. And when I look at later climbs in the race, they're like 15 kilometers climb, which is 45 minutes, where on paper in the past, I would have leaned more towards Vingegaard. But this year, I don't know what I do.
It's like Puy de Dôme. 30 minutes probably was the best last year. Put Vingegaard on a small gap. Grand Colombier was long, but not that hard. Still put him on a small gap. So normally he should put him on a small gap, I would say, and win.
When it comes to the rest days, do we have a rest day before the Loudun-Viel to Plateau de Bay stage 15, or is it after? Okay.
15. Don't shirk your odds responsibilities.
I was more asking because we're starting that stage with a climb at the start. We're starting off halfway up the Col de Périssur, the 7 kilometers at 7 point whatever percent, and that's a pretty rough climb to start with. So if that is like just after a rest day, that's going to be rough. If that is after 6 days of medium mountain plus sprint stages
in the
heat, that's still going to be rough. So I think this is a really oddly shaped but lovely stage, because it starts off with that climb, then it's a 20-kilometer valley towards the next climb, which is the Col de Mont, 9.4 kilometers, 8.6%. Once again, really bloody hard. Then the next climb, also very steep, 4.4 kilometers though, at 9.7%. So breakaway formation phase in this race will be extreme. And there's options there to really launch something maybe, get a few riders up the road, and have a battle between peloton and breakaway maybe. If there's a second leader you want to send up the road, I see opportunities on this stage. And then a 50-kilometer valley until the next climb. So in the middle of the stage, 50 kilometers of valley after those first 3 climbs, then 3 climbs left. We've got the Col d'Agnès, which is 10.1 kilometers at 8.2%. I swear they could only find climbs of 7 plus to 8% in this stage. Then on top, there's a small segment of the Port de l'Air, which is 4.4 kilometers, 5.4%. So not the hardest there. Then we go straight back down with a roughly 25 to 30 kilometer valley between that segment of the race and the final climb, which is Plateau de Bay. Legendary for the wonderful victory of one man himself, Jelle van Endert, in the Tour de France of 2011. We're going back to that Tour de France a lot today. Is it because, do they just go back X amount of years and redo the parcours? Because I swear we've seen multiple climbs from 2011 that came back, Galibier, this one with Plateau de Bay. So I'm enjoying it. I think Jelle van Endert will not be winning because he's 39 and is not riding anymore. But ooh, I don't know who's going to win this. For the sakes of the tension and the fact that I've named Pogačar a few times, Vingegaard must win this for the sakes of the battle for GC.
I'm going to go with Felix Gall winning. I don't know if it's from the break. I don't know if it's slipping away from the GC group. Carlos Rodriguez. I like Carlos Rodriguez, but at the end of the day, he had to follow Matteo Jorgensen in the Dauphiné. Yeah. Like, it wasn't like he also dropped him. So then to see he also won Juplin on the downhill. Can I change? I
don't see him dropping Pogačar.
No, that's the thing. So I'm going to go with Yates.
Adam.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Yates in like a weird multi-leader, not weird, in a multi-leader attack or something. It was Yates on Plateau de Bay. But this could be really hot. It finishes, in the Pyrenees, just north of here. It's a brutal stage just because the gradients of all those climbs are hard.
Yes, but if Vingegaard needs to win this Tour de France, it has to happen on stage like this as well.
Yeah, because I think we didn't really say it on rest day 1, and we can probably say it here, but like, there's almost, if Pogacar's at his normal level, there's like no way that Vingegaard should be ahead of him on the first rest day. The TT, the gravel, the punchy Italian finishes, even if they're the same level, Poggi should be taking bonies and it's
Remco as well, but
yeah, and Remco as well. It's like 2022 Tour de France. Vingegaard was better in the end, but at rest day 1, he was a minute back. So you have to take that time somewhere.
And for the sake of the race, I think it needs to happen on stage like stage 15, because otherwise, I'm looking at the next week, and I'm gonna let you dive into it. But there's a few stages in there where I'm again like, ooh, stage 17, we'll go to it soon. Also, kind of Pogacar territory when it comes to GC.
Yeah, rest day 2, and then we go for a couple of transition stages. Stage 16 from Grosant to Nîmes. This is could be a sprint, could be a missed breakaway. I'm going to go with Magnus Cort from the breakaway. Who you got, Benji?
I've got Philipsen.
Philipsen again, 17.
Saint-Paul Trois Châteaux to Super Devil Weed. This is a stage I was mentioning as a potential Pogacar stage again. This is such a weird parcours, my man, because from the start towards the end, it just climbs up very gradually. But the gradual climbing changes with about 50 kilometers to go, because then we just have 3 final climbs and a bit of a step, I would say. The first climb is the Col Bayard, which is, the first kilometer is 4%, but the rest of the climb has 8.8, 8.8, 6.1, 6.7, 10% at a certain kilometer. It's 7.5 in total with 6.8%, so that's the first of the 3. That's a bit of a warm-up climb for me. Then the second one is for me the launch climb. Col du Noyer. This stops with 12 kilometers to go, so the perfect point to launch in my opinion. 6.6 kilometers, 8.3%. It's got a 600 meter plateau segment on top before we dive into the descent. And then at the end, we've got a small 3.8 kilometer. It's not forested uphill, it's more 5 to 7.5% climbing segment. So
apparently the descent is technical off Noyer.
For me, Pogacar tries to attack away on Noyer and wins the sprint at the finish line.
I'm gonna go with Wild Pools from the breakaway, or Kevin Vauquelin.
I feel like I keep forgetting breakaways exist in this podcast.
You assume UAE are going to control the race easily on this. It's like, again, 3 hours of flat.
And they've got limited those things.
Yeah. I don't know.
I agree. These stages should probably be going to breakaways, but you know what I mean? I don't really care about GC, to be honest, at this point.
Yeah.
Stage by stage, maybe I'll care about breakaways, but because like breakaway, someone like Bettiol might be in this breakaway. I'm not necessarily saying he's going to win that stage.
Bling.
What the fuck? Bling on this stage? Nah.
Bling won on Mont from the break.
Nah, he's not going to win this. No, we're not doing it. No. We're not having this conversation. I'm not accepting your offer.
Gap to Barcelona, 180 Ks.
La Pera is winning that stage.
This is the one 17 or 18?
17.
17. Okay. I'll allow it.
Or 18, who knows?
Yeah, I thought 18. I was like, it looks pretty good for that. This is the most nailed-on transition breakaway stage I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. It's up and down, non-threatening hills, way too hard for a sprinter's team to control themselves. And so I'm going to go with... I've lost it.
Moritz?
Yeah, Moritz will be in there. He'll be anticipating. I'll go with Bling, though.
Healy's also an option. What's your love for Bling at the moment? What's he done this year?
He'll come on. He's a big race rider. Bling actually is a big race rider.
Yes, but not this year. My stage winner for this will be, by the way, it's literally possible that we have a GC rider that drops out of GC first week, and maybe rider like Remco Evenepoel suddenly has to save his Grand Tour by going for forced. Did you just say Pogacar? That's like the least likely one of the 4, in my opinion.
Gets in the car on Plateau de Bay. I'm gone, I'm dead.
No.
Breakaway 3 stages later.
Like,
true, he had to have the 8s against Vingegaard.
Derek G.
Oh, Derek G.
How have
or
forgotten about Israel's existence in this race?
G, and they were good. Neylands was good in the breakaways last year. Like, they're a good breakaway team. And Lascano on this stage also. This is going to be...
Yeah.
This is why I like the UNOX team. It looks good on paper, and then you realize who's going to be the rouleurs in this breakaway. It's going to be the Murderers Row, the best rouleurs in the world.
Abrahamsen has a chance, though.
You got a chance, but fuck. Like, Van der Poel should be in there as well, and Van Aert and Laporte and whoever.
But he will be very marked, so Fuga will beat Van der Poel on this, I think.
Yeah.
I'm sticking with G.
Okay. Stage 19, Benji.
Stage 19 is, well, it's a pretty good stage, I would say. 145 kilometers, so the traditionalists in cycling are in uproar about the length of the stage being too short. We've got 20 kilometers relatively flat, and then shit hits the fan. We've got a climb that is 18.9 kilometers, 5.7%, but it's a bit of a fake news climb, I'd say. In the middle of the climb, there's 3 flat kilometers. The first half of it has 9.1, 10.2% kilometers in there. The second half is more 6 to 8% with more kilometers around 6%. So in total, 5.7%. It's going to be a hard starting climb, a perfect climb for breakaway formation. And this is the kind of thing where you might see X amount of rouleurs riding up the road in the first 20 kilometers, but then on the climb itself, they'll melt while the actual climby boys will go up the road. This is going to be an important stage when it comes to KOM. 20 points on this climb and 40 points on the next climb. Cime de la Bonnette, the ceiling of this Tour de France. You mentioned already 2,800 meters, 2,790 to be precise. 23 kilometers at 6.8%. First 2 kilometers is around 5%, but then the rest of the kilometers is like between 6 and 8, to be honest. And the last kilometer is 9.9. So this is a perfect fight for like a KOM jersey climb, in my opinion. But also, it's the kind of climb where you can attrition the hell out of it from the peloton. So I think we'll see KOM fight in the breakaway on this climb, then attrition on the first 2 climbs in this stage, maybe an early attack from a second-hand GC rider in a team that is still in GC. If they want to put pressure on the riders, we'll be in a very luxurious position if someone can actually still put pressure as a backup leader in this race on stage 19. So it's unlikely, but it's all in preparation for the final climb. And it's not an easy one. This one reminds me of 15.9 kilometers, 7.2%. What does it remind me of? Does it remind me more of Otakam than Granon?
Yeah, it's not as hard as Granon. It's longer. It's 2,000 to 2,000 meters, as the name suggests. Granon went to 2,250, 2,300, maybe 2,400, and that was 9% all the way. But that was a 30-minute climb, 35-minute climb. This is probably 45 minutes. But the first 5Ks of this are very, very difficult of Isola. So I think this is actually a way harder stage than it almost looks because of they go over 3 passes over 2,000 and one at 2,800. There's some steep sections in the final climb. The density of climbing is incredible. It's a very, very hard stage. So we'll see GC action. I mean, that's all there is to say. And so...
peak form Vingegaard wins this for me.
Yeah, that's like on Haltekam, as you said, Benji. It wasn't the hardest climb. It wasn't too high altitude, but he still won. So you've gone with Vingegaard. I will go with...
You're going to go for a break rider again, my dude?
Nah, they can't because there's no time to take a gap.
Yeah.
Carlos Rodriguez. But I also don't see it, to be honest.
Do you... Because like... on this stage, these kind of climbs will be the decider for me on who wins this race. Is Vingegaard still better on these kind of stages than Pogacar or not? And that's why it's very difficult for me to like guess who's going to win this because I don't know what shape they're going to be at. We said at the start, we'll pretend they're in peak form. And if they are in peak form, then Vingegaard wins the stage.
And if he's not, it's not like Pogacar completely, like if you look at stage 17 of the Tour de France, I'm trying to draw an analogy to Col de Porte, which is actually the same length but steeper, but not as hard before. Poggy also beat everybody easily in the uphill sprint.
He was way ahead already, so it's very different race, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I'm saying that, but he might be way ahead already at this point.
Yeah. And then if he wins easily on this stage, stage 20, everyone's going to be thinking, what do we do now? 133 kilometers long from Nice to Col de la Cuyole. This is what all these climbs are extremely familiar to the guys that live in Monaco and Nice. We start with Col de Braus, 10K, 6%. Then there's no valley in here in this stage, by the way. It's like literally 4,500 meters or something in just climbing. Col du Torini, which is 20Ks at 6% with a couple of rest periods. The climbing part's actually over 7% usually. Then they do the Col Mian, 7.6Ks, 7%. There's actually like a whole climb that's just not categorized before that of 10Ks. And then another descent, and then Col de la Cuyole, 16Ks, 7.3%. Unlike yesterday, we do not go to the high altitude. We don't pass 1,700 meters, but it's a very, very hard stage. And I'm going to go with Felix Gall. I think I rescinded my Felix Gall pick before, and now I go Felix Gall because he was very good on stage 20 last year.
I think that's a very strong pick. I feel like this might be like a fallen GC rider victory, but for the sakes of the France Grand Tour, I'm going to go with Lenny Martinez.
Nice. I think Lenny should win a stage here. You know, he's like, if he just drops out of GC early enough, he should really win a stage. All right, bring us home for the final stage.
But to be honest, when it comes to your stage, the one you just mentioned, at this point, it's 133 kilometers, also not much time to actually gain a gap from the breakaway, in my opinion. So it's likely to me that it's still a GC stage, regardless of our desires of seeing Lenny Martinez win at the top of Cuyole here. But anyway, stage 21, no Champs-Élysées this year, which I'm fucking celebrating. I love it. We've got Monaco to Nice. We're celebrating. So everybody's talking about, this rider will have an advantage because they live in Monaco. Half the peloton lives in Monaco. Like, I disagree with that. I'm not having this. But it is a pretty rough parcours, to be honest. We've got the La Turbie climb, which starts at about 3.2 kilometers into about 3 kilometers into the TT. La Turbie starts. It is 8.2 kilometers at 5.7%. Yes. That's a hard climb for a time trial. And on top of that, there's a bit of this plateau section of roughly 7 kilometers where it goes downhill a little bit, uphill a little bit. And that uphill a little bit is actually Col d'Ez. Because on the profile, it looks like it's like a full sled area on top of the La Turbie climb, but it's 1.6 kilometers at 8.8%. So it's not super easy. And then we descend for the next 11 kilometers, with eventually finishing with a 5-kilometer flat segment into Nice. So this TT will be decided for me on La Turbie, Col d'Ez, plus whoever recon then goes ham on that descent and takes maybe a few more seconds in every corner. Based on Combloux last year, I need to say Vingegaard wins this time trial. But Pogacar could do it as well. The third week, I don't necessarily believe in Remco myself.
I go with Vingegaard. Because it's a really good TT for him. There's barely any flat. There was a punchy climb where he even took time at the start of Combloux last year, and then with the descent. But also this is like a TT bike stage. I don't know. I haven't modeled it, but we've seen that Vingegaard on the Combloux stage didn't change TT bikes, and he went pretty quick on that TT, I think. So,
but then again, do we know if the Colnago TT bike is still the slightly heavier one that might lead them to start with?
I reckon they've worked on Lightning because, or maybe they haven't, because Yates and Almeida didn't use bar tape in the Swiss uphill TT on the road bike. So Yates road bike stock, is not 6.8, and he's on a small frame, which I was like, holy shit. So I don't know, the TT bike, my guess is that it's heavier.
Because to be clear, you were saying that UAE riders were using the TT bikes without bar tape because they were trying to save
their road bike.
Okay, that makes more sense. I was really confused. I was trying to work my way around the theory, but it sounded like a conspiracy theory at some point. But okay, so
I think Vingegaard should be pretty happy that they finished with this TT. But again, Poggi did a great final TT in stage 20 in 2020 as well. Roglic did on Lusari, so Roglic also can win this TT. We've not spoken much about Roglic, actually. He also can win this.
I don't know. Maybe the climb starting at the start of the race, of the TT, might be better than being in the second half of the TT for Roglic in my head.
Yeah, and then Coldesi can explode.
Then Lusari went well.
Yeah.
For some reason, I don't see Roglic on the level of Vingegaard and Pogacar, considering what I'm expecting. And also the crash probability when it comes to Roglic, I don't trust him 100% to stay on his bike the entire 3 weeks.
Yeah.
The way I see this Grand Tour developing, if I had to write down now what will happen, is that I expect Remco to be in yellow after the first time trial, that I expect him to drop out of yellow in week 2 for Pogacar, that Pogacar will have a lead on Vingegaard and Remco and all the others and Roglic in the third week, going into the third week, and that Vingegaard will get closer and closer throughout week 3, and then the final time trial will decide the victor of the Tour de France. That's my ideal scenario.
That'd be great for the podcast numbers.
And Roglic stays close enough to be also competitive.
And a threat. They have to mark him and respect him. I mean, that would be great for the pod and for the audience interest. So I endorse that wholeheartedly.
Do you believe in it, though? Do you believe in Remco yellow after the first TT? Or am I...
I think Pogacar will take yellow after the first TT and keep it. Should we do our GC predictions now? We've just...
let's start off with youth and KOM and so forth, or do you not give a fuck about youth?
No, youth, go for it. Remco's eligible. Ayuso, is he? Ayuso is definitely eligible, and Jorgensen is eligible. I am going to say that Jorgensen wins it.
Actually, I was leaning towards that as well, and it's annoying to say because I'd love for Remco to do a consistent Grand Tour where he fights for that podium, but I don't have the confidence yet. And that is because we've had multiple Grand Tours where he had a bad day, which...
Can I rescind it?
Wait, before we go there, before you rescind it, let me finish my point.
Yep.
The first Giro that Remco joined, he did that after a serious injury, the Lombardia injury. He came back, he was sent to that Giro too early. So that Giro, discount that in my opinion. Yep. He still rode great considering the circumstances going into that race. Then the next Giro he was sent to, well, the Vuelta he was sent to in 2022, he won. But then there was no really super hard mountain stage, and the one Sierra Nevada stage, he lost time towards others on that stage. And then I go further. Yes, he crashed the day before, which is also a potential excuse for that bad day on Sierra Nevada, relatively bad day on Sierra Nevada.
And Pandera.
But then we go to the Giro. He had COVID there, so I don't know what to expect on difficult mountain stages. Then we go to that Vuelta last year, where he had that bad day on the brutal mountain stage. Then he came back and won from breakaways, but that doesn't mean much for GC. Because as a GC rider, you should destroy breakaway riders if you have if you're 20 minutes behind. So that's what he should have done. So it's hard for me to say that Remco will podium this Grand Tour. And I would lean towards Jorgensen finishing in white myself.
Forgot that Carlos Rodriguez is under 25 years old.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So
Me too.
I'm going to go with Rodriguez. I don't think necessarily because he's better than Jorgensen, but he is the clear leader, team support. And Jorgensen, he's shadow leader, let's say, but also probably going to have to get his hands dirty at points. So I'm going to go with Rodriguez for white, but
I think that's a good pick. I agree more with your pick than mine.
Anyway. KOM.
When it comes to KOM, I'd love it to be Lenny Martinez.
Yeah, I know. I wish he'd go for it properly.
Who else?
Ciccone. Gal.
Guillaume Martin, maybe? Nah, not winning it.
No way.
No, not competitive enough.
Pidcock.
Or Pogacar.
I think it's going to be Pogacar.
I think so as well.
I think there's not.
But I don't want that, so I'm going to pick Lenny Martinez instead.
They'll have to. I think Lenny in theory could win it, but they'd have to really get it right.
I rescind. That's a word I just learned because of you. And I will go for Romain Bardet I want his last Tour de France. He's finishing at the end of the Dauphiné next year. I want them to win the KOM jersey.
Let me tell you what Romain Bardet is going to do. Let me tell you what he's going to do, right?
Shut up. He's going to try and stay in GC for a week. Oh,
he'll try to stay in GC, and he'll get hard dropped on the first 2 stages, but he'll fight to the line, and he'll be on 130 out the gate. He's then too close on GC to go on the break on stage 4. So he misses that opportunity. No KOM points, no stage win. Despite the downhill finish, he's good for. TT, he ships another 2.5, 3 minutes. Gravel stage. Then finally we get to stage 11. He might be allowed to go on the break. Unfortunately, it's not a long mountain stage. Stage 14, then he might. So and then stage 14, he'll pull to try get back 5 minutes on GC and end up throwing the stage win like he did against VPP in the Giro. And then he ends up 12th GC, no stages, no KOM. That's Romain Bardet's Tour de France. Luke's going to try edit
I don't like your theory. And I don't think Luke likes it either, so...
Sprint jersey. Points jersey, rather.
Points jersey, I think Philipsen wins.
I'm going with Pedersen. I actually think with their number of these difficult stages and the intermediate sprints, and I think with no Geoghegan Hart, I think the best chance of Trek getting a jersey is green, and so they go all in for Pedersen, and you've picked Philipsen, so I have to go for Pedersen, and he's probably the second favourite for it. All right, this brings us to the Maillot Jaune.
Podium. Start with 3.
Carlos Rodriguez, 3rd.
Oh.
Jonas Vingegaard, 2nd. Tadej Pogačar, 1st.
Okay.
I also accept Yates in 3rd. I accept it. But I think they will struggle to keep all their co-leaders safe in all the shit for 3 weeks. So I put Carlos in 3rd. Yates is better than Carlos. But I think Carlos 3rd.
I think it's interesting you say that because I have Yates in 3rd. I've got Vingegaard in 2nd. And I've got Pogačar in 1st.
I think week 1's good for Poggy. The TT, I really think first TT is good for him. And so, if they use the dominance in the mountains, if everything goes correctly, and Vingegaard, if he doesn't have that Col de la Loze moment, which was an aberration, and he's built up a buffer, then even if he loses a stage here or there, like on Alpecin, he lost 30 seconds, right?
Yeah.
But he should take probably 30 in the first TT.
My reasoning,
etc.
My reasoning is that when it comes to our predictions, our thoughts on the preparation for this race matters. And I find it hard to believe that Vingegaard will be 100% at the start of this race. And despite not believing in the crazy sandbagging of Visma that he's barely able to ride his bike, is that's how it feels when I'm reading it. It's not actually written like that, but that's how it feels when it comes out. Like the sentence that Benoit said, which was no one in our team would bet on Vingegaard making it to the podium. I read that as complete bullshit.
That sounds like they got allowed to ride a balance bike on the family circuit around the lake for the first time last week.
Yes, and you failed at that, right?
Yeah, I would have crashed. I got fucking sunburnt, that's for sure.
No, you got burned from scraping on the floor due to the crash. Anyway.
Oh, I agree with what you said. Like, if Vingegaard was in 100% preparation, all good, Tirreno Basque wins easily, I think he wins this Tour de France by 5 minutes. If it's not by 5 minutes, doesn't count. But the reality is he crashed in Basque Country. But yeah, in top shape, he should clean it. We don't know.
I'm not necessarily saying clean it, but I have more confidence looking at week 3 that Vingegaard would be beating Plateau de Bay, we're beating competition on Plateau de Bay by a significant gap on the other 15 kilometer whatever climb. What is it called?
Puyol,
for example. Isola especially as well.
Yeah.
Like those 3 stages, I would think Vingegaard wins those against Pogačar.
Yeah.
And maybe not with as much as a gap of last year, because I would expect Pogačar to be closer, but still enough to maybe win it. But to be clear, that's not me saying that if Pogačar wins, it's because Vingegaard had an injury or something. No, that's just a situation going into the race, and it was the same situation last year that Pogačar had a wrist injury going into the race. So
I mean, come on, and they're acting like he couldn't use his legs for 2 months.
Visma's acting like he can't ride a balance bike on Continue. You just said it.
Okay, but like he actually did crash it like 80 kilometers down to a concrete embankment and was in hospital.
There is a difference,
I mean,
but I still read a lot of sandbagging the last week. It's been a bit extra.
Vingegaard clearly, like he could not go on the turbo 3 days later.
That is true.
But we don't know. We don't know. And hopefully, and the reason we've done this podcast, I think, in pretty optimistic spirits for both Remco, Roglic, Vingegaard, and indeed Pogačar.
Yeah,
because
we didn't mention Remco and Roglic too much, though, so I don't think we're that positive about their chances to win this race.
Yeah, true. Yeah, fair point. But, you know, it's what are we doing a 1 hour pod and saying Poggy wins this stage, that stage, and wins by 10 minutes. Like, I watched the Giro, fine. I probably wouldn't watch it again. If I had to sit down and watch it again, I wouldn't watch it again. So, not his fault, but yeah.
I couldn't care less who wins this race, as long as it's super close until the line and it's got a good story, entertaining narrative to the race. I just want an enjoyable bloody race. Like every year when it comes to every Grand Tour, I just want to see a fight that makes it till the end and that makes a story that would make a good season of Tour de France Unchained when it comes to the GC battle.
You're a producer for Netflix. But I agree, we've been spoiled. In 2022, we were spoiled. In 2023, we were spoiled for 2 weeks. Really exciting racing. I think a lot of us remember 2021 Tour de France. 15 of those stages were not like not as good as 2022 or 2023, let's say. So we're hopeful for an exciting battle. And indeed, I do think it's, the week 3 should be good. Should be good. But do we have the same podium? No, you picked Yates.
No, I picked Yates in front. But hot takes. We might not have the same hot takes. And I actually forgot to prepare my hot takes, so I'm being stupid because I put it in the notes and then I forgot it existed. What are your hot takes while I think about mine?
Adam Yates drops Pogačar, Froome and Wiggins style in 2011 and exposes him on one stage.
I thought they were going to stop after Wiggins and you were going to say, he drops Froome, Wiggins and Pogačar.
Yeah, Bradley Wiggins also participates for Team INEOS this year.
That's a hot take. He said he'd be at the Tour de France in one of the articles, so
I don't think it'd be
I don't
allowed.
know in what shape.
I think Yates exposes him on one stage, like he did on Lebetex last year on stage 15, where Poggy said he let his wheel go to help him fight for the podium, aka he couldn't follow anymore.
I think Frank van den Broek podiums 2 stages.
I thought you said the Tour. I was like, what the fuck? I was like... Close, but no. Almost did it.
He's
actually a good rider.
Yeah. I think Alex Aramburu gets 6th in the green jersey classification.
6th.
And wins a stage.
He can't sprint. He can't sprint. He sees a bunch sprint in Dijon and he's like, no, thank you. I'm going to come 30th.
And he's not even the sprint in his team.
He's not a sprinter. How did you not pick him for stage 1, by the way?
I don't believe it.
Yeah, well.
Didn't I name him for another stage? I don't remember which stage.
Who's the most... we got to go for a random guy to top 10 GC, where it's just like, we look back in 5 years and we're like, how did you top 10?
Oh, God. That's a good question.
I'm going to Oscar Onley to top 10 GC. I think he's real
that's
talent.
not an out there name. I think that's possible.
Come on. He's like...
Not a hot take, dude. Get out of here.
Scotland in the Euros. All right, I'll go someone wilder.
Kevin Vauquelin, top 10 GC.
That would be crazy.
That would be crazy. 42nd at Tour de Suisse. He was close.
Yeah, I mean, Tirreno is good. But...
8th at Basque Country.
No, Tirreno, he was real good in the... Oh, not real good, like pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah, 10th. I'm saying he gets 10th. It's not likely, but I'm saying he gets 10th. In week 3, he will be destroyed. Like, let's be real about it.
Yeah.
I'm saying Vauquelin. Why do we not mention Vauquelin for like a close position in the first 2 stages?
He could. He should. He's a puncher. Yeah. There's a lot of guys. That's why I'm like, I'm not so sure it would just be a group of like 7 guys. There's a lot of guys who can get over those sort of climbs. Make a living out of it. I'll go with Wilco to top 10 as well. To add his string of top 10s. Why not? Nah, he won't. He'll lose time.
I think Van der Poel does not win a single stage.
Okay.
But I don't think that's bad because I think he's here to build up towards the Olympics. And help out Philipsen again like last year.
I think some hot takes.
Cavendish wins more sprints than Philipsen.
You say that, but no, I think he'd take one. I think he'd take one.
Not sure about 3. Oh, I've got one.
Full of them today.
No, it's not a hot take. I was gonna say that Simon Geschke tries to go for KOM every single stage, but fails to do so. But just what will happen.
But he will do that.
Yeah, so it's not a hot take.
Yeah, I think Decathlon somehow win 3 stages.
Oh my god!
Not really a hot take, given how they've been going this season.
Gerben Thijssen wins the Tour de France stage.
I think Roglic doesn't crash, but doesn't top 5.
Ooh, that's a hot take. I'm allowing that. Well,
you have to allow.
I believe in it though, but I think most people would say that's a hot take.
And what about what Jonathan Vorder said about Carapaz? Are you believing it or not? Podium contender?
Fuck no. The problem with Carapaz is that EF will have some crazy idea to launch him 2 kilometers from the end, and he will drop by like 5 minutes after exploding.
Okay, and which team is going to have a public / assumed spat internally? Visma with Van Aert and Vingegaard. UAE with the 4 leaders. Bettiol chasing his teammates going for yellow like he did in 2022. Pidcock and Rodriguez. Roglic and Vlasov. Any of the above, all of the above, what do you think?
I'm more eager to lean towards Bora.
See, they looked real unified in the Dauphiné, I thought.
They did. They looked very unified, but if Roglic has 2 bad days like he had in the Dauphiné,
and
it might get close with another leader.
If you're Vlasov and that Dauphiné stage happens, or even after that, you're like, really? Okay,
to be clear, I hope that Roglic is competitive for the podium and even for the victory, but I don't truly believe he will be for the victory at least.
Not against Peak Poggy.
Same with Remco. I want to see it, but I don't believe it.
Peak Poggy, yeah. It's hard. To be honest, I think UAE going to have all their guys in line. To be honest, and so yeah, I actually think it might be INEOS, but I even think that was kind of created by Netflix. Maybe it's Lotto where they want to go on the breakaway and Dali wants to go for the stage. But to be honest, the Belgian national champs, they're all around him. Maybe we just have a happy tour with everybody happy clappy, which, for entertainment perspective.
Nah, we're not having it.
What about, you see Van Aert attacking on the gravel stage, Pogacar's in his wheel with Van der Poel, Vingegaard's chasing on the flat.
Bettiol goes to the front, rides for Pogacar against Carapaz. We've seen that before.
Seen in 22. So, yeah, it's going to be an exciting race. There's loads of good teams. Everyone's bringing their best teams. And I think if...
Final question.
Oh, yeah, fine.
What is the most likely stage for Alexander Armburu to win?
You're trying to backpedal now, Bruce. Well, so you can text him. Listen, Alex.
I'm afraid that Armburu has never actually acknowledged my existence. I cannot understand why. It's really sad. I've been his biggest fan publicly for my entire life. Ever since 2019 Vuelta a España, where I predicted him 3 times to come second on the stage. Maybe that's why. Because I predicted him to lose.
See, the thing is, I don't even think he's quicker than Poggy in a sprint. So, stage 2, I don't even think he wins the sprint against the GC guys.
No, he doesn't.
So, I think Dev Louis, a 3K 6% punch.
But he's fucking dropped, my friend.
No, not against break. He's a good climber.
Oh, the breakaway. Okay, fair.
Not against Poggy. From the break. Jesus.
I was thinking he would be the GC rider, okay?
Listen, if he just held 500 watts for 10 minutes, then Poggy would have gifted him the stage.
Exactly. Aramburu just needs to learn from that moment.
Just pedal harder, bro. That's
Stevie Williams is actually a pick for that stage.
From the break, yeah. But that's when, to answer your Aramburu question. But let us know down below. What's your podium? Tell us all the jerseys. Do you disagree with on our stage analysis? I think we've tried to spread the picks around between GC, breaks, outsiders, sprinters. Hopefully, we get that sort of open and exciting and competitive Tour de France that we are hoping for. And indeed, we can't wait to watch on Saturday. Benji will be joining me and Luke here in Andorra from Friday onwards. I was thinking we have a live stream of LRCP Catan, which is a competitive board game, maybe on Friday night.
Wait, I've got a cycling monopoly. I probably shouldn't take it in my flight, but
why can't you take
it?
It
Might be a good idea.
Hey, it's not what Piccolo had in his back.
Jesus Christ.
This is Monopoly set. Shouldn't laugh, but
are we planning to discuss that on a separate podcast at some point, or how do you do that?
Bothered, to be honest. We would have done a reaction to it, but you were on holiday.
Yeah, I was sitting in
now we've done a tour
pond
preview
in the middle of Prague.
I think the tour preview's got long enough for people to sink their teeth into this week.
So
yeah, I mean, you can read it on Escape Collective or Cycling News or wherever. What happened with Piccolo stopped by police in Italy. But that aside, yeah, we'll be doing some live streams during the stages, some watch-alongs on select stages, not all the stages, but the opening weekend. I dare say you can write in your little black books. But follow LRCP or Lanterne Rouge on Twitter, or the Lanterne Rouge Media Twitter account for announcements on that.
Wait,
and
who's gonna win the Lanterne Rouge at this Tour de France?
Mercu, easy.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Cavendish in his wheel.
And there's no Champs-Élysées sprints, so will we see more sprinters abandoned because there's no 21 present for them? That's something to monitor. If you're not in the green jersey competition. Otherwise, yeah, we're going to be covering all the stages together, at least in week one. And I'm just really, really... Do you feel that... Do you know the Tour Down Under song, Benji? By the way, the routes just got announced this morning.
The Tour Down Under song?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Like, I think it's like... do you feel the rush? Feel the rush. Feel the rush of the Tour de France. I feel it. Thanks for listening as always. Benji's like, fuck the TDU, bro. You forced me to cover that in January. Actually, not true. We're going in January, and you will respect that race, Benji, because it's a good parcours. And
I'm terrified of spiders.
Talking about it in the Tour de France preview. But yeah, thanks for listening as always. Thanks to Join Cycling for their fantastic support. Go and check them out with a 30-day free trial to help them to support us. We'll see you maybe later in the week. Till then.